Right. I think we're live now. If anyone in the chat can hear me, just push 1. All right, we got confirmation from Reigning Woman. Thank you, Reigning Woman. Welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 378, Black Blockchain Talk. Please hit the like button as you come in, share the video if possible. Also hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust, including those posted on the community tab. It's a docket in the description beneath the video for you to follow along with. If you want to engage in the discussion and contribute, there is a link in the chat for you to click on. When you click on the link and you're in the waiting room, make sure you raise your hand so that one of us can acknowledge you and bring you onto the panel. If you don't raise your hand, you're going to be there for a long time alone, like some other these YouTubers. Also, just as an FYI, we do offer IT mentorship. If you're trying to get into IT for the first time and you want some guidance, we do offer IT mentorship for entry-level people. If you are already in IT trying to go from one position to another, one role to another, and want some coaching, we do offer IT coaching. We can also look at your resume and help you out with your resume, as well as salary negotiations, what you should be making, how much should you shoot for. If you're in the tri-state area and you're looking for contract work in IT, the GOAN 11 has recs on the table. You can talk to Nagon about getting some contract work if you have the skills necessary. Networking and coding is big in the tri-state area. So happy holidays to everyone else. All right. This stream has gone on long enough without any sort of content. It's 9 minutes in. I'll make sure I update the docket right now. Make sure everybody goes to the 10-minute mark. All right. All right, like the video as you come in, and we're going to get started. All right, first item on the docket is from chainbulletin.com. Hyperledger Global Forum 2020, agenda, keynotes, and speakers. The forum promises to be very intriguing as the topics have been carefully selected to cover issues troubling the community. The open source collective work towards advancement in cross-industry blockchain. Hyperledger just announced the agenda and other interesting details of their upcoming Hyperledger Global Forum 2020. The conference will be held between the 3rd and the 6th of March in Phoenix, Arizona. The gathering is open to everybody who is participating in development or interested in learning about Hyperledger's open source blockchain solutions. The Hyperledger Global Forum is the global conference for all contributors and users of Hyperledger projects where they can meet, socialize, and exchange ideas and good practices. Whether you are a member or not, everybody can directly chat with the technical steering committee or the Hyperledger project maintainers. Happening for a second year, the forum will gather more than 1,000 Hyperledger users, members, contributors, and service providers from all parts of the world. The seminar will host a keynote speech from Don Tapscott, who is the co-founder of the Blockchain Research Institute and is also co-author of Blockchain Revolution, How the Technology Behind Bitcoin and Other Cryptocurrencies cryptocurrencies is changing the world. As the forum lasts 4 days, it will include another keynote session from the head of blockchain and distributed ledger technology, World Economic Forum, Sheila Warren. Tapscott believes that the transformation from an internet of information to an internet of value is well underway, and added, leaders in enterprise and government who not just embrace this new technological transformation, but lead it, will reap the benefits. However, blockchain needs stewardship, and forums like this are critical to understanding partnerships, governance, and widespread adoption. As seen in the agenda of the forum offers more than 70 sessions, workshops, panels, breakout sessions, and even a demo theater. When it comes to the included topics, there's a lot of variety ranging from technical matters like Hyperledger Fabric 101 to business sessions such as governing DLT networks. We can also notice some forward-thinking topics like building identity and credit solutions for the developing world using Hyperledger technology. Hyperledger wanted their forum to consist of interesting content organized in the best way possible. That is also structured around issues that global or fascinate the community. This is why they appointed an external program committee, which conducted a thorough analysis and chose the right speakers for the forum. The executive director of Hyperledger, Brian Belanoff, shared his thoughts on the premier Hyperledger forum. The inaugural Hyperledger Global Forum in Basel energized our community and helped drive much of the momentum we've seen on the development and deployment fronts in 2019. As for the upcoming 2020 edition, he believes Hyperledger Global Forum 2020 will bring even more people together for a deep dive into all things Hyperledger. Thanks to our distinguished keynote speakers and the caliber of the content created by our hardworking program committee, we anticipate our event will fully engage both business and technical audiences and further boost the energy and excitement within the Hyperledger community and broader enterprise blockchain market. So I'm going to be attending this event. I didn't go to the very first one, but I will attend this one. I'll have some time off. Definitely got to support it. Hyperledger does sound like it will be the future of distributed ledger technology. So just want to put that out there. Yeah, I wanted to put this one up there as well. Let me share my screen. This is not a docket, but it will be. This is the Open FinTech Forum in New York, December 9th, 2019. So that's sometime later next week. Let me go over, what's the program? Actually, let me just read the caption and then I'll drop this in the chat for anybody who's interested. Focusing on the intersection of financial services and open source, Open FinTech Forum will provide CIOs and senior technologists guidance on building internal open source programs, as well as an in-depth look at cutting-edge open source technologies, including AI, blockchain, distributed ledger, Kubernetes containers that can be leveraged to drive efficiencies and flexibility. Open FinTech Forum better informs IT decision makers in the financial services sector about the open technologies driving digital transformation and how to best utilize an open source strategy and implementation to enable new products, services, and capabilities, increase IT efficiencies, establish and strengthen internal license compliance programs, attract top-level talent, and train existing talent on the latest disruptive technologies. Why is open source important for financial service firms? Digital consumerization Consumerization created the need for the faster time to market, which open source software provides. IT departments need to be able to roll out new applications quickly and inexpensively. Open source software allows IT departments to do more with less. Open source software and projects allow firms to take advantage of enormous pools of technical talent without additional spend. Open source software offers a plethora of benefits, including flexibility, reliability, and stability. Next generation technologies are increasingly developed and refined in open source communities. So this is going to be a dope conference. I haven't been to this one yet, but I've heard great things about it. I hope they have another one sometime in the spring, because I'll definitely be going to it. And I'm going to actually drop this in the chat for you all who may be interested in this. Engineering Cannabis says is DLT, abbreviation for deep learning technology. No, it's for distributed ledger technology. All right, let me try to fly through this as quickly as possible because I don't want to spend all night on this. All right, this next item on the docket is from Forbes.com. How Salesforce is using blockchain to decentralize data and Hyperledger's role. I think this. Yeah, this is right. All right. Hyperledger Executive Director Brian Bertoloff says he noticed an anti-institutional sentiment out there in the world. You're either with the banks or you're against the banks, or you're with the government or you're against governments, he said. Maybe it's just because I'm old and I feel like the world is more nuanced than when I was in my 20s. So Hyperledger, a collaboration by enterprise to develop enterprise-grade distributed ledger technology, doesn't discriminate. We are one of the few organizations trying to say there's a technology stack or a set of stacks that should be able to run the gamut of helping startup companies build their companies, giving them a really cool advantage and edge, help the larger companies and banks who just have a job to get done, and even help governments in their ability to regulate markets. Hyperledger launched in December 2015 as a project of the Linux Foundation, a nonprofit for open source innovation. Bertoloff joined in May 2016. There are currently 15 different projects hosted by Hyperledger. Salesforce, an American cloud-based software company, announced in April a blockchain offering on top of Hyperledger Sawtooth. Bertoloff, who has served on the board of Mozilla Foundation since 2003, notes how crucial Salesforce architecture is to the operations of their clients. This makes them a perfect fit to explore distributed ledger technologies. There's been concern about the decentralization of data and how much companies are building a dependency upon Salesforce, said Bertoloff, who once served as chief technology guru of Burning Man, an annual arts festival in the northern Nevada region of the Great Basin. The use of distributed ledger is a way to decentralize some of that dependency so that there's a full copy of the data sitting at every node. Some of those nodes might be on Salesforce or at other providers as well. Bertoloff, who has been on the board of the Electronic Frontier Foundation since 2013, says absolving concerns about the decentralization of data could help Salesforce expand into new verticals. For all the cloud providers, for companies who care about the provenance of data, who care about exit costs from commercial relationship, centralizing all of your data into one cloud provider creates an operational risk, he says. Being able to extract your data is not always guaranteed or always practical. Being able to migrate from one cloud provider to another is always a challenge if the data isn't being shared and standardized by default. Blockchain technology solves some of those some of these concerns. If 5 business partners build a distributed ledger and are conducting transactions, all 5 have to trust one central party to maintain the shared version of the truth. That's a problem operationally from a risk point of view, said Berndeloff. He said, if instead we decentralize it so we're not all dependent on that central party, that eliminates the risk. While this might not be a problem for some simple applications, for other applications, enterprise still harbors concern. If we're talking about core financial transactions between parties or delivery of contract, there are a lot of companies not quite comfortable moving certain business process to the cloud unless they had something more decentralized, he said. He hopes that distributed ledger technology becomes a tool for cloud providers to address the distrust around the cloud. Hyperledger stood out to Berndeloff by not focusing on cryptocurrencies, tokens, and similar verticals. It focused instead on enterprise application of the technology, in which tokenization might be an attribute, but where a speculative financial instrument and burning all the CPU power of the universe was explicitly not part of what was going on, he said, referencing the energy costs of Bitcoin and its consensus method proof of work, POW. While Hyperledger spoke about using blockchain for use cases with such as supply chain traceability, settlement layers between banks and other institutions, traceability challenges, most people were more interested in ICOs and tokens. The mask was focused on the rise of Bitcoin or whatever, and I was more interested in what you can actually do with this technology to solve real problems, Berndeloff said. But you go out to different conferences and we've talked to different people outside the enterprise space, and you kind of felt like a nun showing up to an orgy. So I'm not going to read this whole thing because I don't think it's necessary. What's happening here is when people talk about blockchain, the first thing they associate with it is Bitcoin, because Bitcoin was the driver behind the technology, and that's what gave it its prominence. However, it's not necessary to have a token or a cryptocurrency attached to the distributed ledger technology or the technology itself for it to be viable. So there's other areas of use cases that can be exploited with the technology, and explored, I should say. And because of that, what's happening here is everybody is apprehensive about implementing the technology because of the cost of startup and implementation of blockchain itself, because it uses a lot of power, because it's always associated with cracking the with high-end, high-performance hardware, graphics cards, NVIDIA, AMD's Radeon, high-performance CPUs, and so on and so forth. Lots of computing power that is necessary to drive the traditional blockchain that drove Bitcoin securities. So there's various areas of where blockchain can actually be used outside of cryptocurrencies, and that part hasn't been really discussed, at least in certain sectors of YouTube and social media. People aren't really having that discussion beyond the cryptocurrency layer, and I aim to discuss that tonight. So let me, so Salesforce is a big cloud computing company that has vested interest in this as well. So there's a lot of places where Bitcoin, blockchain can actually be used, and the decentralization of data is very important. And blockchain or distributed ledger technology can actually aid in this transformation, digital transformation. You think about your own personal identity, social security numbers, personally identifiable information can be placed on this sort of blockchain and be secured through encryption technologies, as well as be driven through the power of compute power. So whatever compute power is available is what it's going to drive it. So when you think about blockchain, make sure you think about applications first and not about the cryptocurrency or the tokenization. It's not necessary. All right, let me get to this next article. All right. All right, this next one's from Reuters.com. HSBC swaps paper records for blockchain to track $20 billion worth of assets. HSBC aims to shift $20 billion worth of assets to a new blockchain-based custody platform by March, and one of the biggest deployments yet of the widely hyped but still unproven technology by a global bank. The platform, known as Digital Vault, will give investors real-time access to records of securities bought on private markets, HSBC told Reuters, and seeks to capitalize on booming interest in such investments by high-yield investors. Banks and other financial firms have invested billions of dollars into finding uses for blockchain, a digital ledger that can be instantly and transparently updated. Few, however, have come up with practical or widely used applications. Proponents say the blockchain will upend the financial sector by cutting out costly process or the need for middlemen. Though there have been few solid examples yet of such revolutionary use. The HSBC platform will digitize paper-based products of private placements using blockchain to reduce the time it takes to investors to make checks or queries on holdings. Records of so-called private placements are typically held on paper and lack standardization, making access tricky and time-consuming. HSBC currently looks after up to $50 billion worth of assets, it said. It is not clear. It is not yet clear, though, how transformational the project could become. HSBC could not quantify the amount that could be saved for the bank or its clients by the platform. Demand for private placements of both debt and equity have grown significantly in recent years. As investors search for higher returns amid low interest rates worldwide, and technology firms in particular shun the scrutiny of public markets. HSBC expects the global value of private placements to hit $7.7 trillion by 2022, a jump of 60% from 5 years earlier. Over the same period, it thinks allocations by asset manager clients will grow to 20% from 9%. Sierra Rodi, who heads custody innovation at HSBC Securities Services arm, said interest in private placement from US and British insurers, as well as Asian and Middle Eastern sovereign wealth funds, is on the rise. With some of the high yields or some of the yields that are on offer, we are definitely seeing an increase in demand, he said. The news comes ahead of an expected shakeup of HSBC Global Banking and Markets Division, with interim chief executive Noel Quinn seeking to cut costs and improve returns in the business. So what's happening here is the traditional way of banking is actually archaic in its current form. If you made a payment through the SWIFT system, you're talking at least 72 hours for a check to clear. With blockchain, that's instant. It's at the speed of the wire. So it's just as quick as you can download or open up a website. It's just as quick as it takes to actually move money and actually verify it through one of these nodes on the blockchain. That's the difference, and that's the power aspect behind it. Welcome, Naima, and welcome Nala says. So we have to, again, as I was saying in the previous article, we have to look at blockchain from an application perspective and not from a financial perspective or a cryptocurrency or tokenization perspective. It's more to blockchain than just cryptocurrencies, like some people will have you think. All right, let me get to this next article. I'm not going to read all of this stuff, but I'll definitely fly through it and try to get to the meat and potatoes of what we came here for. All right, this next one is from Leader Insights. Thailand trials blockchain for rice traceability. Thailand is cementing its position as a blockchain adopter, with several government agencies launching projects to test the feasibility of the distributed ledger technology. Now, Thailand's Trade Policy and Strategy Office, TPSO, has announced that it will launch a blockchain traceability solution for agricultural products, starting with a pilot for organic rice, reported Nation Thailand. Rice tops Thailand's agricultural commodity exports, according to data from the Ministry of Commerce. TPSO Director General Pim Chakanak said the project would launch as soon as the department receives the operational budget for fiscal 2020. The pilot initiative will track and trace Thailand's jasmine rice from production to export. The TPSO, which falls under the purview of the Commerce Department, hopes to build confidence among buyers by proving the authenticity of Thailand's agricultural produce. The aim is to reduce rejections by buyers and also the mixing of high and low quality rice by producers. The department is in talks with farmers, and some 5,000 growers from Surin province will participate in the project. Based on the outcome of this pilot, the blockchain technology will be extended to include other agricultural produce. The process will even involve cameras being installed in rice fields to ensure it's genuinely organic. Interesting. The certification of the harvested rice will be uploaded on the blockchain by the relevant department. Given that that rice is the staple food for so many communities, it's a popular application for blockchain food traceability. A few weeks ago, Fujitsu partnered with Swiss startup Rice Exchange to develop the latter's rice trading platform. In China, the Wuchang municipal government is working with 3 Alibaba subsidiaries to track and authenticate Wuchang rice. Last year, nonprofit Oxfam launched a blockchain project for Cambodian rice farmers called Blockchain for Livelihoods from Organic Cambodian Rice, Block Rice. The project aims to introduce cashless payments, smart contracts, and prove the authenticity of organic rice from the country. Wuchang rice ain't nothing to eat with. What's going on, Thai City?
What's up, fam?
What it do?
Hey, I'm chilling, man. I have to go to work today. Yeah, you know what? Rice is a big thing. That it's fake rice. Sometimes I think they've been having this fake rice problem for a while.
Yeah, yeah, because in
Yeah,
Haiti they
a lot
have
of people have been doing that for a while, like at different restaurants and stuff. The rice ain't even real.
Yeah, it's made of plastic.
Shit, wow, man.
Yeah, they've been doing that in Haiti, man. That was the the Clinton Foundation. Hillary Clinton's brother, Tony Rodham, was selling fake rice from Arkansas into Haiti and making them pay for it when they can grow their own rice.
It's funny, but it's not funny, man. That's why we need this kind of stuff. This kind of technology is going to be beneficial going forward, you know. And you know, we was talking about this with Lionel on the crypto stuff, you know. VeChain and Walton Chain has been a part of China and France's trade deals.
Mm-hmm.
So these companies, they already land the infrastructure,
Mm-hmm.
and America is, man. I don't think they're gonna have to catch. They're gonna have to catch on sometime soon because they about to get left out.
Because we have so many different regulations that we have to go by, right? You know, FTC and FCC and all these other agencies that has to approve, and then you have different states that have different laws and so on and so forth as to how you manage data. And part of distributed ledger technology is the data itself that passes through it. So you have to be able to manage that stuff, right?
Right.
You know, so other countries don't have all these sort of hurdles because they're kind of top-down run authoritarian societies, and they can actually push this sort of technology, the use of the technology and the application aspect almost full stop. But yeah, man, you know, they got jasmine rice, man. How come black people don't have like Tamika rice or something like that?
Tanisha Rice.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? You was talking about the SWIFT system and like the modern banking system that's popping up. Man, I was just thinking about Africa, man. They not gonna have the issues that we have. Like this new infrastructure that's being laid out there is just miles ahead of what we got.
Yeah.
And they're not even gonna know about, you know what I'm saying, the troubles of SWIFT, you know what I'm saying, the everyday person.
Right. They're skipping over it for the most part.
Right.
Yeah. Let me jump to this next article from Geospatial World. Can blockchain technology facilitate better land governance in India? I'm not going to read this whole thing. Land registries across the world are either almost entirely I just got an alert, are either almost entirely badly kept or are distorted, mismanaged, leading to lack of scrutiny, right, becoming an epidemic source of the insecurity for the public. Property rights are a continuous issue in India, as land records in many parts of the country date back to colonial times. The root cause of land conflicts in the country is the archaic legislation, namely the Registration Act of 1908, which allows only presumptive ownership. As a result of this, 2/3 of all civil cases across the country today deal with mainly property disputes. A digital adoption continues to gain traction in India. Blockchain technology is seeing sustained support from the state governments for, I'm sorry, I keep getting these random alerts. All right, let me start from the beginning. As digital adoption continues to gain traction in India, blockchain technology is seeing sustained support from statements for improved, enhanced efficiency of government processes and ensuring transparency. Blockchain, with regards to property rights, has the potential to eliminate the scope of forgery, fraud, tampering, as well as the distribution of records. It can also facilitate smart contracts that would make the transfer of land titles much more efficient, convenient. India is currently witnessing one of the biggest FinTech revolutions in the world with Digital India. However, even with the Digital India Records Modernization Program, DILRAMP, pushing for reforms, the current land system is still plagued with deficiencies. Challenges like monumental time gap in updating title changes, incomplete registration, illegal mutation, forgery, etc., are still palpable challenges in the real estate domain. Apart from this, the current land system is also rife with corruption, with the estimated $700 million being paid as bribes across India at land registrars, thus instituting a system which comprises of unerasable data records that have permanent audit trails can turn out to be a comprehensive solution pertaining to most of the issues that are related to secure property right and, in turn, better land governance. making all transactions verifiable and accountable. Blockchain systems, apart from securing property rights for lawful owners, will also enhance the level of trust in the land governance system, thus making a marked improvement in the ease of doing business and being about reduction in property related litigation. E-governance and digitization of government records has been a slow process in India, which has more often than not added to the red tape. Having said this, however, the Indian government is now realizing the potential of going digital for enhanced efficiency, as well as making a quantum jump in transparency, resilience, and security by adopting blockchain systems. Thus, switching to digitization of land records based on distributed ledger technology would be a great start, with state governments like Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Rajasthan, and etc., looking to unlock the potential of blockchain systems to usher in better land governance. The adoption of new technology will not only pave way for accountability, transparency, and secure property rights for its citizens, but also help in realizing the dream of a truly digital India. So this is actually something that's been talked about for a minute. However, I like to relate this stuff to Black people because it's very important what we do here. You think about slavery and the records that have been on the books. A lot of people don't have access to that now, especially with the new slave museum in Washington, D.C. But if that stuff gets put onto the blockchain, a lot of these mayonnaise people are in some serious trouble, because then there's a rationale that there's proven records to identify American descendants of slaves more than just a hashtag or foundational Black Americans. This is a game changer if you start using blockchain technology and reparations.
Right. It goes back to what we talked about last time with Europe actually making smart contracts legal binding.
Yeah.
And which will pretty much make it like undisputable, you know what I'm saying? It's a record that can't be changed.
Right. So if you leave it up to them, they'll burn all those records before they even get to the blockchain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny, but it's not funny.
Yeah. All right, this next one is from contexto.com. Blockchain titles could change the power dynamic in Bolivia, Peru, and Paraguay. Not much time has passed since its collaboration with SoftBank, and now the Inter-American Development Bank, IDB, has another initiative up its sleeve. This time, it's paired up with Swedish blockchain firm Chromaway and Bolivian IT company Jalasofov to implement blockchain-powered land registries in various countries. These include Bolivia, Peru, as well as Paraguay. We just talked about that in the last article, land registries. Our collaboration with the IDB provides the opportunity for partner countries to take advantage of maturing distributed ledger technologies that have been developed and used in other projects, said Chromaway CEO and co-founder Henrik Jetel. In a region known for antiquated, borderline colonial land policy, Jetel attests that deploying this new system could yield positive results. Indeed, when it comes to acquiring secure and reliable land registration, both social and economic benefits could be imminent. To accomplish this pilot program, the IDB will allegedly provide $600,000 for the project. Amazing. The distributed ledger technology blockchain, the future of land titling and registry, as the project is called, will presumably streamline outdated land systems. At least that's what Dave Major from Talos Digital believes. blockchain should only be used for adding value and making things better, said Mahia, that's what it's pronounced. With offices in Colombia and the United States, his software development firm specializes in blockchain strategies and engineering. At the same time, it reduces inefficiencies and makes things more transparent and robust, he continued. In classic blockchain enthusiast hype talk, but credit where credit is due. Compared to other startups, ChromaWay's blockchain technology is a little more multifaceted. Besides being just a blockchain, it offers database features such as effective organization and setting parameters depending on the data. Similarly, ChromaWay implements a post-chain and open source agglomerator, how do you pronounce that? Agglomerator, yeah, of trusted databases, system connected to a relational database. As the largest source of developmental funding throughout Latin America and the Caribbean, the IDB realizes that the next step is to incentivize regional governments to adopt this emerging technology. They'll have some explaining to do. Companies like to show off novelties like ChromaWay's RHEL programming language for blockchain and smart contracts. What they often forget to do, though, is explain to us mere mortals what it all actually means. The lack of conceptual understanding seems to be understood by Santos Lima. He is IDB's project director for development, rural development, and disaster risk management division in La Paz. We need to work with our governments in Latin America to show them the potential of the technology, Mr. Santos said from his Bolivian offices. The issue is very abstract for them, and the best way to teach them about this technology and get them interested is to show them how it works from scratch, he concluded, perhaps with a hint of condescension in his tone. From the Uruguayan cannabis industry to the Chilean salmon sector, blockchain uses are vast and varied in Latin America. If only us dunces would just understand what it all meant. This is this goes back to the last article about land registries and things of that nature. You could actually use blockchain in a domestic format to identify. Let me bring this person in. Who's this? Wacky world. Okay. Yeah, so you could actually use this stuff here locally too, in terms of like mortgages, bad mortgages, land titles and back taxes, stuff like that. That stuff can get paid off in real time to the government and actually identify who owns what. There was back in 2008, there was a lot of people who went under that probably should not have went under because of bad policies and practices by some of these Wall Street institutions. A lot of that stuff, people are lost their houses and property due to that type of stuff, but you would never know that. But even if you wanted to go back to something like Black Wall Street, how would you be able to identify a lot of those things? A lot of those records are so faded. It would be difficult, for the human eye to actually find that thing legible to actually read. So how I see it is that I think with drone technology, drones can actually fly high enough, 1,000 feet, if not higher, to map out areas. And I'm saying this on domestic and abroad. Drones can actually fly high enough to map out an area with special cameras, feed all that information into a distributed ledger system and pump that stuff into the cloud and let the cloud process all of that information in real time. And you can actually create land registrations in real time. Despite who's living on the land, you can actually map all that stuff out without putting a person on the ground. All that stuff can be automated with artificial intelligence in the drone itself, where the drone can actually scan large swaths of land and feed all that information back into the cloud, and with proper imaging.
Hey, you know what, Mike?
Yes, sir.
They used the drone to survey the land when they expanded our shop.
Oh, yeah?
And yeah, this is another way of, let's say if you're a land surveyor, to give you a leg up so you don't get left behind.
Mm-hmm.
I know we had these discussions about jobs disappearing, but the creation of jobs is, you know what I'm saying? It's here.
Yo, what's going on?
What's going on, brother? What's going on?
Shalom, man.
Yeah. Shalom, and I want to wish everyone a happy Genocide of the Native Americans Day.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
But
I agree with Ty City when he stated that when it comes to automation, it's going to create a lot of new jobs. But you know, it's funny, Mike. It's funny because around 2011, 2012, a neighbor of mine was speaking to me about blockchain.
Mm-hmm.
He was speaking. This was 2012,
mm-hmm.
but at that time,
Mm-hmm.
my mind was not really into that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so funny how now it's like it's more recognized. Now I'm just saying that. Wow, I'm just saying that certain things I caught onto it early, but
Mm-hmm.
when I was younger, my mind was not really that much interested in it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny how things change in the future, you know. But all right, y'all go ahead.
No, it's cool. It's cool. It's something you got to learn, man. The other article was pointing out that, you know, I think it's the last article was pointing out that they have to break it down to a grade school level. That is true. There needs to be literacy behind this and how the technology can be implemented and what the transformation capabilities are. Most people don't know. You know, you think about rap music, hip hop. A lot of artists got beat for their music in the 80s and 90s, man. They didn't know any better, man. But had there been a distributed ledger technology, imagine artists putting their lyrics in their copyright on the blockchain back then. Most artists would never get beat. They would have saw 100, 200% profit on all their album sales, instead of getting 5%, you know, per copy.
Right. And a lot of that had to do with, you were told what your album did. You don't actually know the actual number. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these guys, they use the sound scan method, but
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of them guys got ripped off just by not knowing what the albums actually sold.
Yeah.
You know what, Mike V and Ty City?
Mm-hmm.
I was watching a documentary of the Geechee people in South Carolina
Mm-hmm.
and how their land was being taken away
Mm-hmm.
by corporations who want to gentrify the land and create these vacation resorts and fancy golf courses.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But the thing is, a lot of these people who are Geechee or descendants of the Geechees,
Mm-hmm.
they haven't really seen an actual paperwork of the deeds of their land.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know what's theirs and what's not.
Mm-hmm.
But this sort of technology they'll benefit from.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a drone that would go up and take a clip or a snapshot of the land and maybe be connected to some sort of network to go back into the records if it's connected to the internet and see which ones belong to people and which ones not.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll benefit from that in order to not be taken advantage of, because the Geechee people,
Mm-hmm.
they really haven't. A lot of the people that live, a lot of the Geechees in South Carolina is living today.
Mm-hmm.
They're not really aware of their land rights
Mm-hmm.
or which piece of land belongs to them and what's not. And these corporations that's taking the land are taking advantage of their ignorance.
Yeah.
I'm saying this type of technology can benefit these so-called blacks, the Geechee people that's living in South Carolina.
Yeah. This could help a lot of things for Black people in particular, man. You know, you can go back to slave records at auction blocks in New York, the New York Stock Exchange before they was moving stocks, they was moving people. You can trace all that right back to the ships back to the owners, back to the slave ports on the coast, the Gold Coast, and figure out exactly where each and every single person came from in real time. And it's immutable. It can't be tampered with.
Yeah. And, you know, on Facebook, right? It's these groups of so-called blacks that's looking at automation in general. You know, maybe I'm probably changing the topic a little bit. I apologize if I'm doing so, but a lot of people, like, I'm in this group where so-called blacks are looking at automation as some sort of doomsday thing. It's something scary. But I look at it in a different way. I'm looking at it as something that you could take advantage of and benefit from.
It's an enabler technology is what we call it. An enabler, or an emerging technology that's an enabler to your application. So the application here for Black people would be for reparations. But how do you get all that information sorted together? Because you'll have, it's already kind of decentralized in who controls the access to the information, right? So what you want to do is gather all the information and put it onto the blockchain so you can pull it up on your smartphone in real time and know who exactly came from what, who's really, who really gets the reparations tonight, and how do you tie these people's families in together through genealogy and machine learning and artificial intelligence. All of that stuff is going to come into play. Smart contracts. Ty City probably knows something about that. Imagine a smart contract. Just you have it pre-written that if said DNA comes back and genealogy comes back as authentic to the records, then said person today must be compensated for this much restitution. Go ahead, Ty.
Right, and that's why it's important for us to get a hold of this technology, because we need to be in control of validator nodes. You know what I'm saying? Things that certify information as true, because it's not like you can just put something somewhere. It's got to be validated through different nodes. You know what I'm saying? And we can't get left out of these types of situations, man. We have to learn this technology and adapt it that way so it's useful for us. It's coming to the legal system, the health system. It's coming from all different directions.
But, yeah, and I agree with that. But my thing is this, man. What in the world is wrong with so-called Black people not realizing what they should be taking advantage of? Take advantage of it.
It's just a matter of literacy, bro. Let me jump to this next article. All right, this one is from mobileworldlive.com. Red Cross turns to blockchain for mobile aid project. This is going to be interesting. 3 divisions of International Red Cross unveiled a 2-year program to distribute aid to mobile money accounts using currencies secured using blockchain technology. In a statement, the humanitarian group said a network of virtual community inclusion currencies based on distributed ledger technology would be created with credits distributed to mobile wallets. These can be traded for goods and services in the local area. The blockchain-based funds will not be tied to the physical local currency of the country they are distributed in, and as a result are suitable for regions where the national currency is scarce. Divisions of the International Red Cross from Norway, Denmark, and Kenya have led the project together with several partners. The aim is to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of the $1 billion distributed annually by the organization in its cash and voucher assistance programs. Kenya Red Cross Society Secretary General designate Asha Mohammed said, "We need new financial solutions such as blockchain-based community currencies that can support the long-term resilience of marginalized communities." Sounds like reparations. Regrettably, the bulk of the direct aid flows out of the communities too quickly to provide lasting impact. With the community inclusion currency, we give an opportunity to activate key community members and resources that normally remain largely underutilized in outside monetary economy. Trials of the system have been held in Ethiopia and Kenya, with other countries including Malawi, Zimbabwe, Cameroon, Papua New Guinea, and Myanmar cited as being considered for the initiative. Yeah, this is dope. I'm not a big fan of the Red Cross, but the idea of going into a disaster area where people were impacted and actually providing them with a mobile wallet on their phone, and all they have to do is pull out, and you don't even need a smartphone for it. You can just pull out a regular phone, like a Nokia 3310 or something like that, or one of these Obama phones, and actually have a digital wallet waiting for you in case you are impacted. These are a lot of applications that we're talking about on these live streams about how you actually leverage the technology for real world uses, and this is actually a real world use that is sustainable.
Right, and something like Red Cross Blue Shield, like we sit back and we be like, well, where's the money going? And you know what I'm saying? And the way things are going, let's say everybody who donated to the Red Cross, they could actually tokenize all their donations and use that as a form of currency.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be registered to the blockchain to where you can see this person got this much. This was used for transportation.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to create this level of clarity that we never had before.
Yeah. Another enabler.
Right.
Actually, how is it that a diesel technician like yourself has such vast interest in distributed ledger technologies, man?
Dude, I put my headphones on at work, bro, and I just listen to all these developers, and you know what I'm saying? Because I'm an investor also, so I have to know what's going on. You know what I'm saying? And I'm in it for the long haul, man. I'm just waiting to see how this stuff play out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's no excuse for people not to know or learn or try to seek this information out, man.
Yeah, this information needs to be available in a public library in every Black neighborhood, man, right?
See, it's in every Black person pocket. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but it should be accessible, to the knowledge to the places that have knowledge gaps, right? So that's the whole purpose of a library, is to fill a community with knowledge, right? In a way that is easily accessible.
Right.
The problem is that World Star Hip Hop isn't talking about blockchain. So if you're on it, you're watching cats get knocked out, man. I don't think that's really gonna have a return on investment for you.
It is. Hey, it is entertaining though.
Oh, really? You're a shit time, man. I'm surprised you ain't got the Supreme T-shirt on tonight, man.
No, not tonight, man.
Yeah. All right. This one is for securities.io. Tokenized Securities settled with distributed ledger technology. Deutsche Bank has recently announced the successful implementation of distributed ledger technology and the settlement of tokenized securities. Spearheaded by the Deutsche Bank, saw the participation of various companies: Deutsche Bank, Swisscom, Falcon Private Bank, Vontobel, and Zürcher Cantonal Bank. The intent of this trial was to demonstrate the ability of distributed ledger technology to provide an instant and secure means of settling trades involving SME securities. What does it mean to settle? The settlement of a security refers to a typical 24 to 48 hour time frame in which the exchange of money for a security is completed. It is essentially the act of delivering either money or stocks to trade participants. With the usage of DLT and blockchain technologies, many envision a near future in which this process can be done in a much timelier and risk-free manner. In doing so, costs can be cut, transparency afforded, and time will be saved. The trialing and patenting of blockchain and distributed ledger technology among banks is a trend that happens to be growing with time. I'm not going to read this whole thing. Just recently, there were reports of the Royal Bank of Canada attaining patents indicating an interest in opening a cryptocurrency exchange. While the bank has since spoken out against these intentions, the fact remains that they have shown their hand and obvious interest in the technology. In addition to the Royal Bank of Canada, the Bank of America has also shown a keen interest in attaining a variety of patents pertaining to blockchain and DLT. While their intent is not necessarily clear, what these banks and others have shown us is that they believe there to be potential in blockchain DLT to change the way they operate. Recognizing that, they appear determined to be determined not to be left behind. Beyond securing patents, there have been multiple instances in recent months of banks completing similar actions as those by Deutsche Bank. The following articles are only a couple of examples. World Bank raises $33.8 million via tokenized bonds. Santander completes fully digitized $20 million bond settlement. Upon announcing the success of their trial, representatives from many of the participating companies commented on the event. The following is what a couple had to say on the matter. So, tokenized securities, they can basically, you don't have to wait the 24 to 48 hours that this is saying. Typically with the SWIFT system, you're talking 72, if not longer hours. Most banks don't have the money beyond $10,000 in their brick and mortar. So what happens here is, even if you want to withdraw $20,000, you're going to be waiting for a minute, bro. not today and not tomorrow. It's going to be a couple of days for that. So what we're saying here is that the digitalization of these securities can be made in real time because it's at the speed of the wire, not at the speed of the archaic system that they had before using the ACH system.
Well, this too opens up a whole nother like side of decentralized finance, because you can tokenize other assets. Like what they said with like tokenizing stocks, you could spend that like money.
Yep.
When you tokenize it. Bro, it's some whole nother stuff going on, man. I just, man, say
yeah,
it's interesting stuff, man. And you see Canada doing it, you see France doing it, China, Africa, and here we got the SEC, the TAFC, and everybody just blocking this stuff. Like if and they don't even see it as a way to go around the dollar. People started tokenizing these gold reserves and things of that nature. SWIFT can't do anything to control it.
Yeah, rappers in these videos won't be able to flash greenbacks no more, man. They have to be putting up their USB thumb drives, man. That's digital wallets, man. How many digital wallets?
Yeah, the money phone gonna be out of here.
Oh, yeah. You put up a USB phone.
Yeah, you're gonna have to have a Ledger Nano.
Yeah, cats running around.
Man, that whole wallet's gonna be cloud. Right. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, man. A lot of these cats running around with this bang bang jewelry, man. They're gonna have to reinvest that stuff into something else, man. You put that USB drive around your neck, walking around with that. Gold plated USB thumb drives.
Right. Then you have to memorize your private keys. It's a whole lot to it, man.
You have to recite that in bars.
I mean, people just got to get on board, man. They got to wake up, because this stuff gonna be implemented so fast they're not even gonna know what's going on.
Nah, man, rappers are missing out, man. Only a few cats, man, like Millionaire, Lupe Fiasco, Nah, it's just a couple of cats in the game, probably a handful of cats that are really, really up on the technology game like that.
Ray J, although he's not a rapper, he's an R&B artist, but Ray J has his own tech firm.
Yeah. You know, if rappers had access, well, keep in mind that distributed ledger technology was around back in the 90s. It just wasn't exploited as it is right now. Had rappers had access to this sort of information back then, the game would be completely different. Pac and Big would still be alive. They wouldn't even be beefing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, they would have got a hold of all the information that they needed.
Right. It'll be a lot of rappers will still be around too, because they're every time their song, their track gets played on the radio, they get that spin, they get that royalty. Right now, a lot of these rappers ain't getting no royalties because the little 360 deals they may have signed or whatever deals they may have signed back in the day, that money gone.
Yeah, I mean, even now you got record sales, merch sales, ticket sales. You got to pay your staff. Then you got the whole copyrights and rights to this and that. The producer got to have credits. It's a lot, but I mean, if they streamline it, like this will be a game changer for that industry too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Suge couldn't have dangled Vanilla Ice over the top of that building like that and got that bread upon him. That's a whole nother subject, though. I don't think the blockchain could have helped them. All right, this next one is from ZDNet.com. Predictions 2020, distributed ledger technology moves beyond proof of concept. Spitting this out, man. Overall, our 2019 predictions for distributed ledger technology, aka blockchain, panned out pretty much as expected. Some of the key trends we outlined then will persist in 2020, such as enhanced services and tool offerings, and the most forward-looking firms will continue exploring strategic approaches to the tokenization of digital and physical assets, supported by smart contracts. The quest for dominance among the frameworks will continue to play out in 2020. We'll continue to see the usual suspects of Hyperledger Fabric, Ethereum, Quorum, R3's Quarter, and multi-chain. But there's also a chance of a newcomer upsetting the existing balance, with digital asset now firmly focused on its smart contract modeling language, DAML, and integrating it with other frameworks. We'll see one or two interesting combinations emerge. While there are still occasional headlines featuring DLT as the miracle cure for some intractable problem or other, the irrational exuberance of mid-decade has been firmly replaced by pragmatic and realistic approaches to blockchain projects. The projects underway in North America and Europe today may be fewer in number, but they are among the main serious enterprise endeavors rather than speculative proofs of concept. All right, let me just speed past this. In 2020, enterprises will increasingly focus on operational matters, demanding deployment flexibility and interconnectivity between networks. Here are three of our 2020 predictions for DLT. I'll speed right through this. More than 80% of blockchain deployments will be hybrid or multi-cloud or both. Interoperability will move center stage. The public versus private permission blockchain debate will reach executive teams. So I don't want to read all of this stuff because I don't think it's all that necessary. I think we made these predictions before, but I think it's all coming to fruition that you're going to have to, it's going from a literacy based part of the industry to expert analysis and implementation. Now you're talking about blockchain engineers. That's what they're looking for. People who can actually work on deployments in hybrid and multi-cloud environments. Interoperability, moving to center stage, and how it works with other sort of systems, Oracle, IBM, Intel, Microsoft, Amazon, AWS Web Services, Amazon Web Services, SAP and Salesforce. All that stuff matters. So then you have the public versus private permission blockchain debate will reach executive teams. That means that people in the C-suite are going to be making decisions on this type of stuff as well. They're going to be intertwined in the process of ongoing development. Before it was never like that. At least at the moment, it's not like that, right? A lot of those decisions are actually being driven by IT ops and DevOps in terms of how this is moving about. Let me get to this last one right here. Oh, it's just pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, that interoperability is going to come in handy too, because once all the fiat money goes into the digital space, they're gonna every like these countries gonna have different blockchains that's gonna have to work with each other.
Yeah. You know what's going to happen, Ty, is like the article says, multi-cloud, right? Let's say China has business operations and whatnot, and we're worried if we're in the United States about sharing pertinent information with China. I may set up a cloud, and China may set up their own cloud, and that's where the multi-cloud integration comes in. I don't want China touching my network, and I don't want to actually touch their network at all, because I don't want any cross-contamination or cross-pollination of data that can also be exploited, because we have laws here that punish us if we lose any piece of data, any sort of sensitive information or PII, publicly identifiable information to a person, place, or thing. So multi-cloud strategies are used for that very purpose, so that we're not actually doing business with each other. We may go to a third party like Amazon or somebody else, or we may set up our own hybrid cloud, like the article was saying, a hybrid where I have control over my data at the ground level, but there's services in the cloud that I still leverage. So keeping my data secure in my hands, but I'm also pumping transactions into a third-party cloud that is trusted, that's also going to do business with China, that China also trusts. So therefore, that we're all secure and we're not actually rubbing elbows together, so to speak, physically. So that's where a lot of that stuff comes in.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the base premise behind Ripple technology as being a bridge asset, and linking different countries and different currencies and different smart contracts and things together.
We got Super Chiz on the panel, man. What's going on, Finn?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? So with the blockchain technology as it stands now, are there any emerging industry standards, or is it still kind of wild west at this point?
No, there's steering committees all over the place, but Hyperledger and Linux Foundation seems to be the biggest drivers. And then you have Ethereum, and then you have like Ty City mentioned, Ripple. Ripple is a major factor in the blockchain community, distributed ledger community. So whoever drives the technology the fastest and gets more success will be the ones who write the standards. And so there's a whole lot of moving pieces in terms of companies and how they implement strategies and how to offload and load up systems. So Ripple has a wide, not a wide name, but a more popular name than many others, because they are doing so many business transactions with different companies, so many partnerships.
Yeah, and the protocol for Ripple is actually under the WE3 Commission, I think, which is the same body that is over the internet. The world, yeah. It was actually gifted to them, so they have a validator node on Ripple network already, and pretty much multiple nations have already signed on with Ripple. They have offices all over the place already. But Yeah. Also, the regulations are mainly built into the blockchains already. So you have like the ERC blockchains, which is Ethereum, has a protocol built into it, and they make now they're making different blockchains for different purposes now.
Yep.
So these blockchains are specifically built for finance, specifically built for this or that, and the regulation is built into the code.
Right.
So
It's not a one size fits all.
Right.
so what that means is that, you know, a lot of y'all cats, especially y'all living like in Southern California, El Paso, like y'all running across the border to get antibiotics for that VD you caught. It's gonna be on blockchain. hey, I'm telling you, it's gonna be on blockchain. So all y'all cats, y'all gotta watch it now. And y'all run into DR, getting body shaping and body sculpting in the Dominican Republic and Colombia. It's gonna be on blockchain. You come back to the United States, it's gonna be on your medical record.
I don't think so, man. They have to comply, man. I don't think a lot of countries are going to want to comply anyways, because that would integrate them into a Western system. And the whole purpose of blockchain is decentralization.
Yeah, but like earlier, yeah, traceability is going to be part of the process for sure.
Yeah, or that jasmine rice, man. I'm real salty. We don't got no Shamika rice, man. All right, let me get to this last article in the whole purpose of this live stream. This one is from App Inventive, blockchain versus DLT, an explanatory guide you can't miss on. So a lot of times we throw out these terms called blockchain and distributed ledger technology, but we really don't have a full understanding of what it really means. Everybody uses it as a buzz term, but no one really, at least on these YouTube streets, they don't really go into the depth of why one is named over the other and why is one chosen over the other. Blockchain is usually mentioned when you talk about Bitcoin, whereas DLT is usually the generic term in terms of the technology itself. So let's go into this. As blockchain is evolving, many startups and developers are exploring and dissecting the potential of the technology in all aspects. They are not solely taking interest in knowing how the technology can revamp their existing business models, but are also entertaining all the originating buzzwords. While some are using them as synonyms, others are taking an interest in finding what the differences between them. One such newly originated name is distributed ledger technology, DLT. What is DLT has become one of the buzz questions of the current time, with what makes it different from blockchain being the close second. Let's cover both in this article, but first, let's have a sneak peek of the blockchain versus DLT by considering a platform example of both: Ethereum blockchain versus R3 quarter DLT. So from the top is features, and then you have the technology, Ethereum versus R3 quarter. The consensus says that it's the same throughout the network on Ethereum, but on R3, it's pluggable at the transaction level. So this makes a lot of sense from a financial perspective, because different stores like Walmart, Target, so on and so forth, can plug at the transaction level. So from a PCI perspective, payment card industry perspective, the DSS, which is digital security spectrum, if I remember correctly, would actually be more compliant with R3 than it would be with Ethereum. So the permissions, open and permission list for Ethereum and closed and permission for R3. Why this matters is because it's how the data is going to be managed when it passes through the technology itself. So on Ethereum, it's open and permissionless. That's not really good for security when you're trying to move health records or other sensitive information. Whereas on R3, it's closed and permission. That means this is really good for sensitive information, PII, and other forms of security, such as the military. Military would be very much interested in R3, not in Ethereum. Blocks. Yes, all transactions are part of the same blocks. On Ethereum, no, there are no blocks. Transactions are directly sent to the participants, and this is a part of that financial aspect of how it would be implemented. So R3 makes sense for financial payments, but Ethereum, not so much. The mining aspect, yes, miners exist within the network on Ethereum. No, there are no miners on the network in terms of R3 Coda. So the difference here, and I could be wrong, maybe Tyson, you can jump in on this.
Yeah, R3 is used as a settlement layer, as a payment settlement layer. Yeah. So you can actually they actually Swift uses R3 as a settlement layer. Like it's a few people that's starting to venture out and they're using R3 as a settlement layer. Ripple is using R3 as a settlement layer. So like when you read, there's no cryptocurrency, right? That's why XRP is it's a digital asset. It's not necessarily it's not a currency itself. So they actually use R3 to settle using different assets and different cryptocurrencies. It uses cryptocurrency, but it doesn't it has no cryptocurrency like Ethereum has its currency.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? R3 is just a layer.
Next up is privacy. Less secure, since everyone has a copy of the transaction on Ethereum, whereas on R3, highly secure as transaction copy is confined to relevant stakeholders. This is very important from a sensitive info or PII, personally identifiable information aspect, because R3 makes sense for sensitive information and PII, whereas with Ethereum, you probably don't want that. Now, it makes sense to use Ethereum for saying something like a VIN number on a vehicle, or a part number on a vehicle, such as airbags. When you need to make an airbag recall, you can look that stuff up really easily, and it doesn't need to be secure, because for all intents and purposes, the blockchain is immutable, but that information should be publicly available in real time. And that's where the privacy aspect comes into play.
Right. Also with Ethereum, the smart contracts, you have to be able to search them out and find it. And it can't be private.
Yeah. Scalability, limited because higher participation of blockchain consensus protocols slowed down the transaction commit rate on Ethereum, but on R3 Corda, higher because of minimal role of consensus models in committing a transaction. This matters because as you start to add more information, more data to the blockchain, it needs to scale. If I push 1 million products or 1 million assets, that stuff needs to be loaded up onto the blockchain. You can't have scalability issues beyond 10,000, 20,000 transactions. If you have 1 million transactions happening, it's pretty easy in, let's say, a brick and mortar store like Walmart or Whole Foods, something like that, to have 1 million transactions in a day. If your network doesn't scale, then you're SOL. And if you're SOL, then that technology is of no use to you. In this aspect, Ethereum has not been proven to scale beyond a certain amount of transactions, whereas R3 Coda can do it because of the minimal role of consensus models in committing a transaction. So that's why there's a difference between DLT and blockchain. Blockchain uses up a lot more energy, whereas DLT does not.
Right. And also the fact that it actually has a mining network slows it down also, because those those mining algorithms play a part in the actual validation of the process.
Mhm. So it says cryptocurrency on the next one, Ether for Ethereum, and no cryptocurrencies involved for R3 Coder. DLT, or distributed ledger technology based systems, do not have cryptocurrencies involved with them as a rule. They are separate from the token as an asset and the cryptocurrency aspect. Tokens empower token creation on Ethereum and no token capability on R3. Again, like I said just a second ago, no, that's what separates the two between blockchain and DLT. Legal standing, no legal standing of any transaction for Ethereum can be legally bounded when associated contract has a legal pros attached. So that's what makes R3 better than Ethereum. KYC, know your customer, not required. It is on Ethereum, it's not required, but on R3 Coder, it is required for all the participants to have KYC, know your customer, because it's a financial settlement system, transaction settlement system.
Right, and so companies like Ripple that deal with banks and whatnot, they R3 is the settlement layer, and it's got the entire transaction has to be KYC from where the cryptocurrency, wherever it came from, where it goes, it's got to be KYC all the way through. It can't touch an Ethereum, or it can't touch something outside because it won't get the validation through Corda.
Let me bring this other person in. Oh, okay, distributed. Yes, across any running a node on Ethereum, yes, but not everyone has access or has all records on R3 Coder. So R3 goes the distance to secure itself in terms of being a distributed model, being in that it's a distributed ledger technology, whereas Ethereum does not exactly do that. Anyone can access a node. So therefore, what happens with a node, anyone could pop on a rogue node on a network and actually have access to this information that should be secure. That's a problem if you're a company that relies on regulations of sensitive information and PII. Immutability, yes, all transactions are permanent, and yes, all transactions are permanent on both. So they are both immutable platforms because they are distributed based on distributed ledger platforms. I'm actually going to fly right through this because I know I'm going to spend a whole lot of time on this, but I just want to go over the meat and potatoes of it. Now, while this would have given you some insight on differences between blockchain and DLT, let's jump into the decentralized world and study them in detail, starting with the basics of blockchain technology. Blockchain is a decentralized, distributed, and often public database type where data is saved in blocks such that the hash code present in any block is created using the data of the previous block. These blocks offer a complete set of characteristics like transparency, immutability, and scalability. That makes every brand and developer interested in investing their time and effort into blockchain development guide. The advantage of the blockchain technology enables technology to verify any transaction without involving any intermediaries, no middlemen. Since transactions stored and the blocks are stored in millions of devices participating in the blockchain ecosystem, the risk of data recovery is minimal. As consensus protocols are used to verify every entry, there is no chance of double entry or fraud. Another benefit of blockchain technology is that it offers transparency in the network, which makes it easier for anyone to be familiar with transactions in real time. So these are all the benefits of blockchain that people may or may not have understood initially, but this is what made it advantageous for people to jump on board with. So let's look at the areas that blockchain is set to disrupt. The banking industry, the healthcare industry. Blockchain will prove to be a game changer for the interoperability challenges that face the healthcare domain. Every bit of the health information will be made accessible in real time. Government, a decentralized government would eliminate the bureaucratic red tape and inject transparency, efficiency, and security in the system and processes. Real estate, every single one of the process that cripples the real estate economy, massive paperwork, escrow transfer, or money in high commission rates will be solved through blockchain. Manufacturing, the entire process of making a product available from the manufacturer to the end users will be transparent and accountable at every stage through blockchain's incorporation. Education, getting access to student records and course transcripts will now become a matter of a few clicks and uber real timeness. So let me go over the brief introduction of DLT. The answer to what is distributed ledger technology is that it is a digital system used for storing the transaction of assets, even when data is stored at multiple places simultaneously. It might sound like a traditional database, but it is different because of the fact that there is no centralized storage place or administration functionality, meaning every node of the ledger processes and validates every item, and this way contribute to generating a record of each item, building a consensus on each item's veracity. A timeline of DLT's movement can be seen in the image below. So what we see here is from 1991 to 2008, with the working of the first blockchain, what we consider to be blockchain today. And Satoshi's release of Bitcoin white paper happened in 2009. And then the first Bitcoin purchase happened in 2010. And then 2011 to 2012, we started seeing transactions over Ethereum blockchain. And then blockchain technology R3 is formed and forms consortium of over 40 legacy financial companies for implementing blockchain technology. And then by 2016, there's a bug in the Ethereum DAO code exploited and attacked. And then by 2018, applications starting to be developed, what we call DApps or DApps, decentralized applications. So the advantages of DLT, the DLT data is 100% tamper-proof till the database ledger is distributed. It offers highly secure and trustworthy experience. A decentralized private-based distributed network enhances the robustness of the system and assures continuous operation without any interruption. So basically what you're looking at here is a generic form of what is branded as a blockchain, but actually a lot more thorough. You see this a lot with generic medicines versus the branded medicines for in healthcare. That's why you go to Canada, you see a lot of people who run to Canada to go get their prescriptions filled because they can get it for cheaper and a lot more efficient, rather than the United States where you have all these multiple brands that sell pretty much the same product. Or what should be the same product. And you pay a lot more. You end up paying almost twice as much. Things like Viagra by name is actually cheaper in its generic form. I have no idea why I use Viagra, but be popping off, man. So relationship between blockchain and DLT. So what we're looking at on this graph here is the sections of the technology itself. So it goes from permission blockchains to distributed ledgers to distributed databases. It's very important that you understand what a database actually is. For it to be distributed means that it's on a network where there's other similar nodes and switch points available for it to access and traverse the said network. I'm not going to go over the other brands with too much, but I'm just going to read some of the captions. As depicted in the above image, blockchain is just a piece of the vast ecosystem of DLT, as I was saying before. It is a type of DLT where records are stored in blocks after being validated cryptographically. That implies a hash created using the data stored in a block is fed in the next block added such that it gives an impression of a chain. So basically, it's creating a network with the data itself. Now, while this might be giving you a rush to compare blockchain and DLT at once, let's take a twisted path. It will be the first about other types of DLT besides blockchain, and then move to the core part of the article. So, holochain, and there's a variety of chains that you can follow. A lot of projects that are already put out there. I think Hyperledger has probably like 15 or 16 just by themselves. So, well, let's look at the caption for some of these. Holochain number one, holochain is simplified in simplified terms is a type of DLT which does not rely upon consensus model or on the concept of tokenization. Here are the participating node that node has its own secure ledger and can act independently while also interacting with other devices on the network to meet the basic needs of decentralization. This way, it lets you build more customized and scalable solutions than what blockchain offers. So this is more of a application-specific sort of distributed ledger technology. I'm not sure who would actually use it currently, but it has its own framework for distributed applications, and that's where it becomes very unique, or if not already proprietary. So when we talk about blockchain, you got to take into consideration, it's not just about the cryptocurrencies or the tokens, it's about the decentralized applications and the applications of which it can be applied to. So knowing how to code is going to be very important. And I'll get into that in a second. I'm not going to go over all of these, but I'm just going to.
DAG is what the Air Force is using right now.
DAG, yo. All right, factors to consider while comparing blockchain and DLT. Number one, the consensus model. The foremost factor to focus upon while checking into blockchain versus DLT is the consensus mechanism. Since only a limited number of nodes participate in the case of DLT, there is no need for any consensus. But the same time is not true in the case of blockchain, where anyone can participate and contribute to the addition of a new block to the chain. Too many blocks on the chain actually slows it down. It doesn't actually speed it up. And it costs a lot more money from an energy consumption standpoint. That's a big downfall for blockchain, to my knowledge. Number two is block structure. Another factor that you must keep a watch on while differentiating between blockchain and DLT is block structure. While blocks are added in the form of a chain in a blockchain, they can be organized in different forms in the case of distributed ledger technology. Number three is tokens. Tokens, the programmable asset governed by smart contracts or underlying distributed ledger, is also one of the prime comparing factors in the blockchain versus DLT war. While tokens are must to consider while working with blockchain technology, they are not required when dealing with DLT. We talked about that earlier. Sequence. Number four. In blockchain environment, all the blocks are arranged in a particular sequence in a serial mode. However, there is no such constraint when talking about DLT. Blocks are organized in different ways in the case of DLTs. So every time a transaction is made, it's moved differently. DLTs seem to move a lot more efficiently when it comes to this in comparison to blockchain itself. Well, at least some of the blockchain projects itself. Number 5 is efficiency. A DLT can complete a significantly higher number of transactions in a minute than what is possible by blockchain. So it delivers higher efficiency with minimal cost than blockchain-based solutions. We talked about this earlier, efficiency, and why DLT is a much more preferred method when doing applying it to different projects outside of cryptocurrencies. Number 6 is trustability. Another factor you can consider to see the difference between blockchain and DLT is trustability. In the case of DLT, trust among participating nodes is high, and it is even higher when the corporate initiates building their own internal blockchain or organize a consortium. Also, the censorship resistance in this template is low since they can be centralized and or private. However, it is not so in the case of blockchain. In blockchain ecosystem, the censorship resistance is too high with 1 vote per PC. But with the progressive concentration of mining, with upgraded hash power in the hands of fewer decision makers, the chances of trustability is low. So blockchain becomes less trustworthy, which is why if you look at some of the other articles we have covered in the past, a lot of companies are hesitant on implementing blockchain because of this very thing. The trustability is low. Nobody really is fully feeling it, so to speak, in terms of blockchain. But when you take something like Hyperledger Fabric or Hyperledger Sawtooth or many of the other Hyperledger projects, then you start to see more adoption, in terms of enterprises and some governments, if not many governments, are adopting either Ripple or Hyperledger. Number 7 is security. To access data stored in the blockchain, users have to employ a key. If they lose the key, they lose access to their account and funds. A real life example of which is that the loss of access of nearly $145 million of Bitcoins and digital assets on the death of a cryptocurrency exchange CEO. However, such situations are not majorly possible in the case of DLT since the data is distributed, encrypted, and synchronized across multiple ports. This is the benefit of DLT versus blockchain. You lose $145 million, and I can guarantee you somebody's going to be hurting. Number 8, real-life implementations. When talking about the comparison of blockchain and distributed ledger technology in terms of real-life implementations, blockchain leads the battle. This is so because many entrepreneurs are slowly and gradually understanding the nature of blockchain via some guide and use them into their traditional model for leveraging better advantages. In fact, various recognized brands like Amazon, IBM, Oracle, and Alibaba have started offering blockchain as a service, BaaS solutions. But when it comes to distributed ledger technology, enthusiasts and application developers have begun to explore the core of the technology. They are looking ahead to come across the different use cases of DLT, but there are not many significant real-life implementations yet. So this was that's about it. What we're trying to get a better understanding is there a difference between blockchain and DLT? There is. The synopsis of this, for those of you just joining us, is blockchain is married to the cryptocurrency, whereas distributed ledger technology is not married to the cryptocurrency itself. So I hope I said that correctly. Ty City, correct me if I'm wrong. Did I say it right?
Yeah. It's a lot of hybrid stuff going on that we're going to start seeing going forward, though.
A lot of El Caminos in the technology game.
Exactly. A lot of side chains that's going to be used to enhance scalability with some of the older stuff like Ethereum. Actually, Ethereum is probably going to fork into Ethereum 2.0 soon.
Mhm. I thought,
And it's you have to stay on top of this stuff because man, things are moving so fast in that space, man.
Mhm. Yeah.
You know, this whole blockchain versus digital ledger technology sounds like
DVD versus Blu-ray.
HD DVD versus Blu-ray.
Yep.
I was about to say that.
Mhm.
But okay, so one application that I thought about was the video game industry, because as it stands, the video game industry is rampant with cheating and weapon duping and hexadecimal editors, inventory editors, and things like that. But especially when you talk about the scalability, the enhanced scalability, that means that they can individually tag certain items, so that, like, especially like the highly sought after items, individually tag them so they can say, okay, well, we're going to actually distribute 1,000 of these items worldwide. So if we have 1,001, we'll know exactly when that item was created and where it was created from. So you can actually pinpoint the actual end user who introduced that item into the environment, and so that's going to be a big boon and actually enhance their revenue, because they actually lose money by having because it devalues the items when there's too many in circulation.
Yep. And you can use something that you use, Tris. You buy ammo by a certain amount. Imagine if the ammo was bad, how would you be able to trace it? Right? So they can put all the gunpowder used, who manufactured it, which person engineered it, when it was made, so on and so forth, on the blockchain, and you would be able to know that just based on the ammo and the QR code on the box itself.
That's funny you mentioned it. I think I have it on my main Instagram. I had bought some ammo, and the ammo was bad. Like, I opened up the box, the ammo was corroded. Hey, and like we had driven out like maybe an hour, past. Okay, I drove an hour just to get to Ording, and then drove an hour outside of Ording to get to this remote location so we can go shooting. I get out there and the ammo's bad. Yeah. Open up the box, the brand new box, and I'm talking about, this was like probably maybe 800 rounds, all bad ammo.
Damn.
Yeah, I was pissed off. That was a lot of money too.
Yeah. I mean, then you can get a refund, right? The manufacturer would be able to know, oh, we put out a bad batch, between July and August. We need to recall that stuff. If you have such and such serial number, manufacturing date, you need to return that ammo to us, and we'll exchange it for the corrected batch, right? That sort of stuff is how distributed ledger technology would actually work in tandem to an application, a hardened application. No one has really come up with any of that yet, though.
Yeah, it'll link all the way back to you. It'll let you know.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Especially if it's on your phone, right? You get an invoice on your phone plus a QR code. You might get a push alert on your phone that this ammo needs to be returned. Right. So that's the sort of use cases that we're talking about when we talk about blockchain and distributed ledger technology, and why you need to be, if you're trying to get into IT, this is the sort of perspective you have to take. How can I leverage this technology as an enabler to areas that haven't been that are still analog for the most part, that have not been involved in the digital transformation of the fourth industrial revolution?
Right, and see, a company like VeChain, they already have products from Walmart already going through their system already. And the more they start ramping up the volume, the more they're gonna be, you know what I'm saying, that ecosystem is gonna grow.
So let me pull up EDX because we're gonna go back to the basics on this and why you guys should be actually involved in this sort of area. Then we'll go over some of the jobs and so much money they're paying. I wish Nagon was on right now because I know he has Rex on his table. So let me go with the first one because this one is self-paced. Actually, let me change my screen. All right, this one is from edx.org, and this is the Linux Foundation. So the Linux Foundation and Hyperledger are one, for all intents and purposes, they are married to each other. The Linux Foundation is what's pushing Hyperledger. So introduction to Hyperledger blockchain technologies, a primer to blockchain distributed ledger and Hyperledger technologies. This is something that is free, and you pay $99 for a certificate if you need it, a print certificate or something that pushes to your LinkedIn account if you complete it. And it's 14 weeks long, 3 to 4 hours per week is required. And the prerequisites is actually this right here, which is again from the Linux Foundation, blockchain, understanding its uses and implications. So another one.
Put that in.
Yeah.
Can you put the link in the chat?
Yeah, I'm gonna do all that.
All right, bet.
This is all free. $99 if you want a certificate. Yeah, I'll drop this in the chat. And then I'll drop the other one.
Mike V helping y'all boys out, man, getting y'all out the fast food business.
Nah, you ain't right, man.
Yo, man, this is crazy. Man. I have a whole lot to learn when it comes to blockchain, man. If I listened to my neighbor back in 2012, man, by now I'd be extremely knowledgeable in blockchain. But like I said, I was younger in that time. My mind was not ready.
It was too early for the technology. A lot of people didn't jump on when they had the chance, but
yeah,
I mean, this stuff at generation 3 now.
Yeah, but having the literacy is going to help you. Let me share my screen again. And so the purpose of this is that it gets you acclimated with Hyperledger. We've been talking about Hyperledger all night. Hyperledger is a part of that DLT, distributed ledger technology, and how you can implement it. Hyperledger has at least 15 to 16 projects on board. It's probably going to have a couple more in 2020. And they're going to, and I talked about this earlier, but they're going to have a Hyperledger conference in 2020 in March. So it doesn't require you to have any knowledge at all. You can actually come in there and absorb the game, soak up the game like you're supposed to. Take notes and whatnot. Just pay attention and shake hands with people. It's about that networking aspect.
That DAG runs off Hyperledger.
Yep.
And they, like I said earlier, they contracted with the Air Force already.
Yeah, you're gonna see a lot of them with the military. But what was I saying prior to this? Yeah. So this is EDX. I would definitely take these two. I mean, they're free. You can't beat it. Ain't gonna cost you nothing more than time. Richard Victor Dixon says this stuff ain't gonna help you if you don't know how to code, though. Actually, that's not true, Richard Victor Dixon. So understanding the technology in the coding is separate. If you code, then you code. It does. You can be a coder and not have a inkling understanding of DLT at all. So it's not all for nothing. If you take this stuff, you need to have a primer in order to understand what the hell you're going to be coding for, right? You can't just code and then say, well, show me the blockchain, show me the DLT. That's not how this works. You have to start from the beginning. Just like if you ever went to college, they don't just throw Java at you. They take you through CS 101 first, computer science 101. You're not touching Java until you get past CS 101. If you can't get past CS 101 or CS 099, you're not going to get to Java. Java is like CS 120 or something like that. So you're ways off from that. So you have to go through the early, you have to, crawl before you walk, man. And some cats are going to be walking around hunchback, man, if we discourage them by saying not knowing how to code. You learn how to code afterwards. You can walk and chew bubble gum at the same time is what I'm saying. You can learn this stuff as you go along. This is 14 weeks, 3 to 4 hours a week. This isn't that long, man. It's not that long. I know cats in jail, man, doing it on their head, and ain't getting nothing done. So I know people on YouTube, sitting in the manosphere doing 8-hour live streams. Yeah, and they've been doing it all year, and you ain't got nothing out of it. So,
nah, that's a fact.
Facts, man. Hashtag facts.
Man, I'm telling you, man, I appreciate the brain trust, man. It forced me to think globally, dog.
Yeah. Those DPF systems you got to install, put that on the blockchain.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. Let me get to this next one, man. All right, let me get to Udacity, because this is where this is where I think Richard Victor Dixon might be talking about being a developer. There's a difference between being a blockchain administrator and being a developer. So this is from Udacity, and this is new according to Udacity. Demand for blockchain developers is skyrocketing. In this program, you work with Bitcoin and Ethereum protocols, build projects for real-world application, and gain the essentials for a career in this dynamic space. So the estimated time is 4 months, 10 hours a week. Enrollment starts on December 10th. And the prerequisites are object-oriented programs, or OOP. So if we look at the prerequisites, to optimize your success in this program, we've created a list of prerequisites and recommendations to help you prepare for the curriculum. Prior to enrolling, you should be able to code with object-oriented programming, C++, or JavaScript. Work with asynchronous JavaScript code, like I said just a second ago, JavaScript. Developing the front end and back end of web application with JavaScript. Create and consume data using a remote API, application programmable interface. So a API is what allows two systems to work with each other, Android to the cloud or iOS to a said application. That's how an API works. It allows two systems to communicate with each other. And since if you believe you need more preparation, here are some additional resources you can use. Intro to Computer Science. I mentioned this earlier. CS 101 is Intro to Computer Science. Intro to JavaScript. Intro to Programming Nano Degree Program. So they do have a nano degree program and intro to programming, but I don't recommend people actually pay for something like this. You can actually pick up a book from Amazon, man, and learn and take up intro to programming. A CS 101 book from you can go on eBay right now. MIT, Harvard, they all have CS 101 books. And students probably offload those things for like $10 and they're still clean. And to get it from legitimate institutions, Division I institutions, you can't beat that.
We download these ebooks for free off of some BitTorrent site,
Oh man, we don't recommend that stuff on here, bro.
Oh my bad,
You're making it hot, dog.
You know what? You didn't hear what I just said.
I hope you didn't say what you just said.
No. I you know what? You guys didn't hear what I just said. It's a figment of your imagination. Okay.
No. What he said was don't do that. That's what he was saying. He was advising.
Thank you, Super Trish. That's right. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Okay. Block out there, man.
And this
fact,
not
hey, Mike,
financial advice.
hey, you know what? He brings up a good point. How would that be affected by blockchain and digital ledger technology? The whole torrent scene.
Torrents are separate client nodes that host data. You got to kind of find it for yourself, but no one would ever put that on the blockchain and lead everybody straight to the cops, man.
Well, I'm saying, like, okay, so like the originating program, like, say for instance, like you have a program and it originated and it was somehow put on blockchain, right? And so there's maybe indicators once it's actually uploaded into a torrent server or whatever the case may be. The fragments, can they be traced back to the origin?
Oh, you're talking about the packets. You're talking about packets from
yes,
from a transaction. To an extent, you would need a real forensics guy to really go in there and waste his time doing something like that. I don't spend time doing that at work at all. If I think it's bad, I just flag it out. I just block it. I don't get time for it.
Yeah, that's another industry that's opening up too. Block analytics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think they call it block forensics. That's what they call it, block forensics.
Yep. Let me go back and then I'll drop the link in the chat. I think this is my perspective as an IT person who's seasoned. You should actually go through that EDX platform or EDX program to get you up to speed. It's better you learn in that sort of spoon-fed in sort of environment than to waste your money on something like Udacity and be lost as a blockchain developer. I got an offer back in January to be a blockchain developer in New York, and they were willing to pay me $250,000 out the gate. No experience. So I think Nagone has Rex on his table. I don't know if he still has it, but that's what they're paying out the gate right now.
Bank of America just hired somebody to train people on the Ripple protocol, and they haven't even announced a partnership yet.
Oh yeah, they're gonna put their chess pieces in place.
Oh yeah.
We got who on the panel is with us that just joined us, man. Dion Alexander, what's going on, bro?
Solange got him.
Brian Solange?
Nah.
Oh, let me. I think this is spelled wrong. Yeah, I guess he might be away. Tassi, do you have anything you want to add, man?
You know what, man? Not really. I think Lionel got the blockchain study group, and yeah, I mean it's tons of information on YouTube. You know, all you got to do is just start subscribing and start listening.
How did you get into it though?
Bitcoin. I ain't even go front. You know what's crazy about Bitcoin is I went down to Austin one time, and they have tech, music, and then they have film. And I went down there early because I got like a room and stuff, and it was the tech week still, and they was giving away Bitcoin to go into some of these tech conferences they was having, and they was giving Bitcoin away, but that was the first time I was exposed to it. And I look back at it, I was like, dang, man. They was like, yeah, come over here. We giving away 30 Bitcoin. And yeah, man, it's like 2009, 2010, or something like that.
Yeah, these are one of these books that I was referring to, Computer Science for All, an introduction to computer science using Python. This is exactly what I'm referring to. Although the book is 69 bucks, it's the point of the matter is that these sort of books exist, man. If I was in the game right now, I would probably grab this just out of GP, just because I like to collect books that are fundamental to my development. So let me who's this one?
Yeah, the Ripple protocol was built on Python.
Yep. You can never go wrong with Python. Python is the top language right now to learn, that and JavaScript.
That's what all the autonomous stuff is going through, right? Python.
Yep. Because it's so easy to create frameworks, or not frameworks, but it's so easy to create systems around it. It's getting better with version 3.7, I think we're at right now. 3.5.
I want to do the Audacity thing, but man, I ain't tight with the math. I ain't even gonna lie.
Wait. You can pick up metric sockets and stuff like that, but you ain't good with the math?
Man, I have to look into it, man. When I first wanted to go do it, I started looking at it, and I like trigonometry and stuff like that. That ain't my strong suit, dog.
Your name used to be Trig, man, in the streets.
See, I had to take some kind of refresher course or something and try to get my head into it. And I like to get into some of that autonomous stuff, though, man.
Yeah, you're in the right position to do it, man. Hire yourself a tutor, man. There's tutors you can pay, man. I paid $25 an hour for a tutor. So
yeah, I'll probably start doing something next year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, next year is a New Year resolution?
Not on my birthday. The next year start on my birthday. All right, let me get this last piece of information out to you all. So we're on Linux Foundation's training page, and they have a certified Hyperledger Sawtooth administrator, certified Hyperledger Fabric administrator. So these are the two blockchains that have the certification so far in distributed ledger technologies. So let me go over either one of them. Doesn't matter which one. So this is based on the exam, but if you buy the training in the examination, it's $500, so you save $100 on it. Let me see if I can grab. Yeah, it's not giving me any. Oh, here's a course right here. So this course, the course goes over the course introduction, network topology, chain code management, certificate of authorities, diagnostics and troubleshooting, and service discovery. So what they're saying is the prerequisites for this, if you're going to be a blockchain administrator, it would be a knowledge of Linux administration, some commands, knowledge of Bash, born again shell, that's what Bash stands for, strong knowledge of containerization and Docker. So we haven't even gotten to Docker yet on this channel. We kind of touched on it briefly, but we haven't really gone into a deep dive. We'll probably do a deep dive in December. But familiarity with NoSQL databases, that's where somebody like Victor Dixon comes in. I think he took the Sub-Zero course in SQL, so he probably has some knowledge about that. General understanding of CouchDB. Couch does not mean what you cats out there think. Some guy sitting on a couch playing Madden, this ain't for Madden Kings. This is actually a database. Strong understanding of Hyperledger Fabric, architecture and components. This means you should understand what ledgers are, how they operate, the different types of network nodes. You should know what chain code is, its relevance to peers,
understanding the purpose of certificate authority and its identity administration. So if you look at the bottom, like I said earlier, it's pointing you right back to the EDX programs that I recommended for you guys before. So this all ties in together. If you take those programs, it's going to lead you right back into this. That's what I'm trying to get you guys acclimated, or you people acclimated with, that this is what is the prerequisites going into this. And so when you think about, I'm going to actually drop this in the chat too. Drop this in the chat. When you think about getting into blockchain, there are various areas now in blockchain that you can actually contribute to. You don't have to be a developer if you're not really good at math. You can actually be an administrator and actually be really good at managing blockchains. You don't have to actually develop the code. Every developer has an administrator to his side, and so on and so forth. So that's how the game works. Who has their hand up? Oh, that's Richard Victor Dixon. We find out. We find out. Go ahead, Finn.
What's up? What's up, y'all?
What it do?
Yeah, I was just saying that yeah, I did the courses, and yeah, they definitely good courses. Definitely
Which ones did you do?
I did the EDX. I done did a whole bunch of EDX courses.
Oh yeah?
Since y'all done told me, I even did the sequel just to reinforce what I already know. Like I didn't because I'm looking for a sequel position right now. So I crammed like I done crammed like on 4 or 5 sequel courses. I done did like 12 courses in all on EDX. But
are you in communication with Josh?
You tweeted a little bit on Twitter.
Keep it technical.
But besides, talking in the chat on here, nah, not really.
Yeah, he's a actual DBA, man. Yeah,
that's a good point. Yeah, I can actually use him as a reference too.
Yeah, you gotta communicate with him, man. He been in the game a minute, so he been working on Oracle-based systems and stuff like that. So
yeah, that's actually a position that's a recruiter trying to get me to do is dealing with Oracle forms. But I don't know shit about Oracle. So
man,
I'm trying to cram. I was going through some Oracle forms 10G documentation.
Yeah, they up to 11, 12, and 13G now. But you can go back and read the white papers, the release notes on those things. The white papers will actually help you a lot because they're kind of straight to the point. There's no personality fluff involved in it like a book would be. So you pick up a white paper, man. A white paper is probably gonna have like 100 pages to it, but that all of it is straight to the point, and it tells you exactly what it's about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I ain't really feeling the job though, because it's a public sector job, and I don't know, it's a lot going on. The recruiter, he just steady, but I ain't feeling it, man.
It's a public sector job.
Yeah, it's dealing with the supervisor elections. They not gonna hire me, man. I just know it.
Man, you never know until you try, man. Most of the time, it's all about it's not about what you know, it's about who you know, man, of the game. So my thing is this: I would still push for it. I'd rather get rejected and know whether or not I was applicable for it than to not apply for it and not know what could have come from it. So you don't know until you try, man. And I tell a lot of cats, man, just tighten up the resume, and actually make some connections, man. It's all about the connections, man. That's why I tell cats, go to these meetups, man. Don't be afraid to, step outside of your boundaries, man. It's really.
Yeah, I agree with that. The meetups done help me out a lot.
Yeah, man.
It gets you talking about the technology more. So eventually, when I do get to an in-person interview, I'll be comfortable talking about the technology. So.
Yeah. Like I said, man, I was at the conference last month, man. They was talking about Duke stood up and said, you know, he spent 10 years in the pen, and they still hired him because he was knowledgeable enough. You know, Cyber 7, man, he did some time, and they gave him an opportunity. So if they're giving cats out of the joint opportunities, man, we can't just automatically just dismiss a job before we even apply for it. So
yeah, you're right. Yeah, I'm right about that.
yeah, I'd rather get a rejection notice, man, and
A missed chance.
yeah, missed opportunities, man. But
I'll find out next week after these holidays over with. So.
Yeah, I thought you was gonna come up here and put Magic's lyrics on the blockchain, man, because you thought he was so good, man.
Oh man, when you ain't gotta wait that long, just go on YouTube. Get some of that Mac, get some of that Young Bleed and Concentration Cap in your life.
You agree with it, Tyson?
No.
Well, you ain't fucking with Mac.
Man, I told you, man, Scarface the king of the South, man.
Oh man. You disappointed me all the time. I thought you knew a little something, man.
Oh man, I rock with him, but he ain't the king of the South, man.
Well, I never did say he was the king of the South.
Oh man, man. Y'all tried to get that off.
I
man.
say he's one of the best lyricists out the South. If I was to create a group,
there with you, man. Hey.
Yeah, we ain't gonna go there, but you get me all off the topic.
Oh, man. I'm looking at blockchain roles right now. It's not a whole lot in Atlanta, in Georgia. Although you got, this Oracle DBA right here. Blockchain a lot gets associated with,
a lot of startups,
app developers and stuff like that. So sometimes it gets disguised and you don't really know. But even from an Oracle DBA standpoint, it gets tossed in there, right? So if I just do a Control F and type in blockchain, you see full stack Java engineer, and then it says experience working with financial services products such as payments and blockchain, right? So blockchain isn't going to be the title of your role, but you're going to have the responsibility of being a blockchain developer. That's what it's going to come down to. So, and again, consulting. For all of these jobs, if you look at right here, it says salary estimate anywhere between 75 to 125K is what they're talking. So six figure joints right here, man. Who's this trying to get in here?
Yeah, I got up on here because I was I know about crypto and blockchain. I'm talking about it on Twitter. And I was just talking about it in the BL meeting the other night. But the thing is, you really can't implement it unless you know coding. Coding is the higher learning curve to me. I see, because I already done went through the C# library, dealing, because I do plan on dealing with it. Like I plan on coding smart contracts on the Neo blockchain with C#. So I already done looked through the documentation, and I got a couple of books on blockchain and crypto and stuff. But you really can't. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, still look into it because you want to be knowledgeable, but the code and it's the higher learning curve. You really can't.
You got some questions in the chat for you, Richard.
Oh, I am. Let me see.
Said, Emperor Augustus says, Richard, how was your experience with those courses?
EDX is the best. They have the best tutorials on everything. It's better than YouTube, Udemy. I done tried a bunch of stuff. It's better than Udemy. The Udemy stuff, a lot of the stuff on EDX is from actual corporations, where Udemy is just freelancers that's putting them courses up. So if you're thinking about it from business, they might not put they all into it like that because they're just trying to put up something real quick to make some money. so it's not as informed. Whereas EDX, it's very high quality on EDX.
Mhm.
And like it's straight to the point. You get the, it helped me out even with my C sharp. With my C sharp studies, I took the asynchronous, C sharp asynchronous. I took the web APIs with C sharp. I took I don't took a bunch of stuff. I can't even remember, to tell you the truth. But.
Mhm. Yeah, let me answer this question real quick. Dave Tao says, what programming language to learn for blockchain? JavaScript, C++, C Sharp, Java, and Python. The thing is, different platforms are going to use different languages. So you can't just say, well, I'm going to learn Java. Well, what about this other platform that uses Python, right? So there might be some similarities in syntax, but it's not 100% fundamentally the same. A good programmer, has a general idea of languages, but doesn't actually specialize in every single one. They just specialize in using one, and they kind of learn as they go along. They don't ever try to be the master of all. Very rarely do I see guys like that. Sister George, how are you doing? We got Complex on the panel now, man, after having all that catfish, man.
Oh, I already knew you was about to go there.
Mm-hmm.
Complex.
Is that catfish on the blockchain?
No, it should be though, man, because it's really tasty right now, man. What up, Richard? What up, Ty?
What up, bro?
Yeah,
What up?
What it do, man? Who else is trying to get up on here, man? It's Galaxy S8 cat, man. So yeah, man, that's the differences between blockchain and DLT, distributed ledger technology. I had to go back to the basics, man, to kind of really start from zero, from a understanding standpoint, comprehension standpoint, because there's some changes around here. But one monkey don't stop the show. But next week, I'm going to go into smart contracts versus artificial intelligence, and what's going to be the changes coming forward. Because last year, 2018 was smart contracts. 2020 is going to be all about artificial intelligence. So you had better have a good literacy of artificial intelligence and how it can be leveraged and implemented in terms of the blockchain. And then after that, I'll go into Docker containers and stuff like that, and the necessity behind it and how it would actually work out for you.
Yeah, that's gonna be a good one.
Don't sleep on decentralized finance.
Yep. Well, decentralized finance. Galaxy S8 has his hand up. Galaxy S8. You have your hand up.
Welcome.
Yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Hey, good evening, everybody to the panel. I'm sorry, I just wanted to chime in real quick. Forgive me, I might be a little nervous. I like listening to you guys, the Black Brain Trust,
Mm-hmm.
and I will say this. I've tried to dabble in IT. I was the one that kind of commented a week ago about my experience in engineering and everything. I'm now a nurse. I'm in healthcare, but I'm really trying to transition over into IT. I think one of the things that makes it daunting and a little bit intimidating is the fact that I'm listening to you guys talk, and I'm hearing you guys talk about the blockchain, DLT, all those type of things. I think the problem for me is none of this is in my everyday lexicon,
Mm-hmm.
meaning that, I'll give you an example. I took an AWS class, and when you break it down and you really get into it, it makes sense. The cloud makes sense. But because
Mhm.
what a lot of people feel is every day they don't use this type of verbiage, you start to get, you start to get a little wary, your eyes glaze over, and you start to think it can't be done. Um, I'm I'm actually taking classes right now for a couple courses. But I don't know. I just every time I listen to you guys, I feel I'm so far behind. I'm like, golly, man, like what is going on?
That's why you gotta keep networking, with channels like this, Sub-Zero channels, a lot of people in the background, and
Yeah,
meetups. That way, because I was like that too, where it was just I'm just reading and querying and doing stuff, but it's just me. But you got that. You actually got to talk this off people. Like you got to bounce that the talking off.
yeah, yeah. You're right. Actually, it was Sub-Zero that got me into database development. So I actually took a class in I'm here in Dallas, so I took a class at Dallas over at Northlake Community College, and then I used to go to I took that, and I used to go to some Salesforce meetups in Plano.
Mhm.
I don't know. It's just that ever since I became a nurse, things have gotten a little. I don't know. That's but I'm really looking forward, to getting into this because I don't know. I hate nursing. That's all I can say.
Well, you're wearing two. You have one head and you're wearing two hats, right? And for this type of stuff that we're talking about here, um, what would make it easy is that even if you are in the nursing profession at the moment, um, even maybe just having your own little side projects where you're working on this stuff, that gives you the lane to explore this stuff. Like if you're just trying to like internalize it all, but there's no outward expression of it, no sort of project, no sort of program or anything like that you're actually trying to work on to try to develop or anything, then yeah, it makes it difficult for you to kind of just learn all of the information and then just internalize it. Richard had a key point because he and we talk maybe every week to 2 weeks. You know what I mean? Uh, Having a network or meetups, groups, what have you, is what's key to being able to actually internalize what it is that's being talked about and what we're learning. And a lot of these discussions that we have on the Brain Trust also give you some insights on how to implement it, where to take it. So it's not really just the jargon itself, but if you can relate the jargon to, say, like if we talk about, putting it on a smart device or something, that may give you an idea of what to do with it, and then you start thinking conceptually about it. And then what happens is that you're going to start approaching code from trying to like do something very specific versus, just kind of like a broad based sort of view of it where you don't know where you're going to target it. So what Richard said was very key, man. You got to have like your a cluster or a network where you're actually bouncing ideas of this nature off of, and you might even be collaborating on projects and stuff.
Yeah, you got the networks there. Like you got Black Brain Trust Sub. Even though I'm not a student technically, I still go back in there all the time.
Well,
because it keeps me fresh. And I done took 3 of the guys out of there, and we doing our own thing on the side because the group is too big to get that drills that you really need to do.
it's also about what your learning capabilities are, man. How well do you absorb information at a fast pace? Because that's how IT works. IT works at a very fast pace. If you don't keep up on a weekly basis, man, you're gonna get lost probably after a month or so.
Oh, and I hear you on that. And the thing is, I used to. I mean, I was a computer science engineering major before. So coding, I actually enjoy it. It's crazy. Like I said last week, I thought it was a dead end. Around 2005, like a lot of my friends were graduating, they weren't getting jobs. And it sounds asinine and stupid, in 2019. But you know, back then, you're looking at people and you're seeing people struggling in it. You know, they're doing all kinds of jobs like teaching and stuff like that. Around that time, or a little later, they used to have what they call the telecom corridor here in Dallas. All those jobs went away. So I was just thinking, I might need to get out of this. And so I left it. Um, and it wasn't until, you know, I started listening to subs videos that I just got an interest in it. Um, I took the a SQL course, and it's so much like programming. I mean, even though SQL is not considered a programming language, it just, excuse me?
It actually would be. SQL stands for sequential query language.
Query language, yeah. But a lot of people have told me, oh, it's not you're not coding when you're doing SQL.
But you're not coding, but you're writing out the sequence that you need to retrieve data from each column.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. But I say that to say that it just started coming so naturally. So I think but because I don't do this for a living, one of our last projects in that class was to develop our own database, and I started to develop like a football or soccer database of all the leagues in the world, all the champions that were of that year, everybody that went to the Champions League, everybody. So it just started getting longer and longer and longer.
Did they require you to do that, or is that something you came up with on your own?
Well, they wanted us to start some type of to build like a database, and I said, you know, at the time, I think it was toward the semifinal round of the Champions League. I was watching. I said, hey, let me try this, and I thought it would be a pretty easy task. But then when you start looking into a lot of the South American leagues or in other languages, you have to do a lot of translating to find out, you know, who was it, you know, who were champions that year, who won man of the match for certain matches and stuff like that. So it got really intense. It got really expensive.
You know what the problem is with what you're saying is that it doesn't relate to your everyday experience as a nurse in health.
Exactly.
Here, it would have made more sense had they had you work on, let's say, an ongoing database or build a database around something of healthcare informatics, right? Or let's say the HIV rate, or even blackdemographics.com. Imagine if you made a database just based on some of the demographics that they list in blackdemographics.com, and then you can actually create a table out of that. That's more relatable to you than, let's say, a stupid sports league. There needs to be, and I don't know how much that discouraged you, but there needs to be more related topics around people's backgrounds, you know, and that's why, you know, in IT, a lot of people kind of flunk out because they can't really relate, and they can't keep pace for one, but they can't relate also, and they also don't get enough support. And that's why we kind of do mentorship on here openly, because we want people not to be discouraged. We want people to actually get more involved, and it's actually more accessible than what people can actually imagine. I just watched Information Man's show. Shout out to Information Man. He had brother Jazz on there from Afrotech, man.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, that joint was popping, man. That's, you know, that brother, you know, he worked for Intel, man. He's involved in high performance computing. You know, who would have thought that a cat who came from Ohio would actually end up in that area? You know, he plays Alpha as well. That's the sort of, you know, perspective that people need to see as an example as to what is capable. And if you're not really surrounded around that sort of audience, man, around that demographic, man, you're gonna have a hard time keeping pace. It gets discouraging.
It does, because one of the second courses I took a Salesforce course, and I'll be honest with you, to this day, Salesforce, I just found it very redundant. It was a lot of clicking, move stuff here, move stuff there. But when someone explained what a CRM was to me, I guess people use it every day, but to me, the point of Salesforce was because you're keeping tabs on sales leads or certain leads or certain things. I was just like, how is this applicable? Or I mean, I guess it's really needed. I don't work in corporate America, but you know, I heard it was a pretty, pretty high earning certification. Um,
Yeah, 100,000 at the gate.
exactly. So, I mean, one of the guys that got me into it at the meeting, he's from South Carolina, and you know, I was just like, you know, he was just telling me how, you know, but the problem is, I just could not see how I would use this in my everyday life. Keeping tabs on sales leads, I was like, wow, was it really that? Is it something really that serious?
It'll
Or something
probably
like
be
that?
more easier now because Salesforce, they just bought Tableau, so they doing a lot of data visualizations, kind of like how, kind of like we use Tableau and ETL and Power BI. I don't know
Hey,
Tableau, I know
hey,
Power BI.
Well,
hey, you took
well, you
all those
know,
courses at Northlake
Yes, I took
at the Irving campus.
no, I took it at the main campus, the central campus. Yeah, in
Okay.
Irving. Yeah, in Irving. Yeah, yeah, in Irving. I took the Salesforce class there. I think the database class was given remotely. I really enjoyed that one. It was given remote online. But I was at the professor's office almost every week I could. I mean, his office was at El Centro. I was taking the train up there almost every other day because I
At
was just
Central in downtown.
yeah, downtown, because I was just enjoying it so much. I was just like, so you know, I was asking so many questions like, if I use this to do, I mean, I was figuring out ways to, I figured out, that it's more than one way to get a certain result. I don't know. I really like database. So one of the things I was going to ask Mike is, uh, right now pursuing an advanced degree in nursing. Well, not advanced, but trying to get my BSN. So I am thinking about. I'm kind of part time in San Antonio for school, but I'm thinking about San Antonio. Austin is like maybe 45 an hour up the road on 35. I'm thinking about maybe under continuing that. Austin has a little tech. Austin's developing their little, Silicon Valley down here in the Southwest, and I'm thinking about a lot of Austin Community College actually gives certifications. That was the problem with Dallas Community College. What I found out is they were just teaching you the basics. They're not really. So when I got there, I was thinking it was going to be like nursing school where they teach you all this stuff and they say, okay, now you're ready to go take the certification. They were like, no, this is just entry level. You have to do all that stuff on your own. Whereas Austin Community College, they tell you we're preparing you for the certification. And I've been told by many people, especially for black males, we're better off going into a job interview with the certification. At least they know, hey, he did this much,
So yeah,
to get it.
yeah, two things.
Go
Community
ahead.
colleges are made for primers, right? So they're primers for the actual subject that you're going to go into when you go to a 4-year university or college. So it's not
Well,
really.
this is under continuing ed. Sorry to interrupt. This is under the continuing ed department. So their workforce, they're actually geared toward the workforce. They it's not the credit side of it. It's the, I don't know in Boston if they have like the community colleges have a continuing education side
They're
that
all,
kind of
they're
pressure.
all paired. They're all paired with these state institutions for fast tracks to like master's degrees in 5 years. So what I was just saying was that they usually don't really do a deep dive into these things. They usually just do a primer, and they expect you to go to a 4-year institution somewhere else and get the rest of it. But that's number one. But number two, I I would join NISB in Dallas. I think this is one in DFW. You want to be surrounded by that group of people. I heard there's a pretty good chapter down there. I don't know it too much. Our chapter is actually rated the #1 in the world for NISB. So maybe there might be some things going on down there. I don't know. You should definitely actually pull.
I was actually in it when I was at UT Arlington. I was in NSB, but this was back in the day. And
Yeah.
of all things, we had a white president. The president was a white guy. It was ridiculous. But,
You sure he wasn't posing as something?
UTR is where all the Asians go.
Yeah, the president was a white guy, and it's funny thing that year or a year later, the head of the Texas A&M NSBE was a white girl. So anybody, I realized, you gotta understand, like I said last time, a lot of black people aren't in STEM, so NSBE was pretty much wide open for everybody. I remember we were trying to figure out, we were arguing, but we were debating on, we were trying to make T-shirts and we were trying to make a model for NSBE.
Yeah.
And me and my homeboy, we had suggested that we quote a Tupac line in the song "Me Against the World," where he says, "Even a genius asks us questions." We want to quote that and put that as the NSBE, to try for a NSBE T-shirt. But we got vetoed by the white guy because he was the president, and he was like, "No, we're gonna put this," and we were just like, "Really?"
Yeah, man. I mean,
Wow.
See, that won't fly in our chapter. That will never fly. We're a little bit more red pill than that. But the fact that they're not obeying to the mission to increase the number of culturally responsible Black engineers who excel academically, succeed professionally, and positively impact the community. I'm sorry, but whoever was running that chapter, I can't really speak to that. But it doesn't seem like they were upholding the mission. So I would have vetoed that. I would have walked out. But that was my second point, was that I think NSBE as a network actually would be very beneficial for people like you. I would definitely say in the healthcare sector. Microsoft is hiring nurses, Amazon is hiring nurses because they're building out their pharmaceutical and their healthcare platforms now.
We've been talking about this at length over the last month.
At some time in 2022, you're going to see an explosion from all the tech companies getting involved, especially Apple. Apple has a lot of money trying to get involved in the wearable sector because Apple wants to position itself as a part of the healthcare sector through their iPhone and the iPad and everything else. They already use iPads now, but the idea of getting wearables onto people, man, next for Apple will probably be a pacemaker, a Bluetooth pacemaker. So that's kind of recharges itself as you walk. That sort of deal, kinetic energy. Apple's going to move into that space, so they're going to need nurses and whatnot. That's going to be able to look at records and concepts and things like that. They're going to be trying to hire for all types of things. So telemedicine.
Yeah,
I could definitely concur with that because,
Super Trace, you're a nurse as well, right?
Yes, and I'm here in Seattle.
What's
going on? What's going on,
Hey, what up,
Complex?
Tris?
What's going on? I've done product testing for ultrasound products. As they're moving into automation and stuff like that, they're really trying to, I guess dampen the learning curve of ultrasound guided peripheral IV placement. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I specialize in, vascular access. So I do it all the time. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to make it to where it's more accessible for people who just don't have. It's almost like just some people are good at shooting 3-pointers in the NBA. Some people are not. And no matter how much you practice at it, just some people just don't get it. So they're trying to have the machines assisted by like identifying the actual needle tip and things like that on the screen and kind of guiding the people as they place the ultrasound guided IVs and things like that. So I was doing some of the product testing for some of the newer products that are coming out, and just stuff like that, like little gigs you can get like that. I mean, that pays $200 an hour just to test the product, and it's easy money. You know what I mean? And you just give a little feedback, and it's just real easy stuff. And so also, when you talk about, your interest in, information technology, things like that, there's an amalgamation, which we know is nursing informatics. Of course, that's a master's level. It's a master's level program, though. But you can actually, there are people who work in nursing informatics as bachelor's prepared nurses. It's something that, like you can kind of get into if you're already in an organization, find out, what's going on with the informatics and see if you can get a position in the informatics department, maybe not as the head informatics person, but just in that particular department. And that can kind of get you acclimated, because you're at a unique advantage being nursing and healthcare, because oftentimes what they have people who are computer people but don't understand healthcare. So when they have programs like Epic, that they're trying to design Epic to communicate with some of the what you call IoT. Is that the correct term, Mike?
Yep, Internet of Things.
Yeah, they're trying to have it communicate with certain IoT. They have the some of the new Alaris pumps that actually communicate directly with the actual Epic interface. And so in order to calibrate these things and implement certain features, they need somebody who has a definitive understanding of healthcare and what you actually do as the end user. And then if you're able to actually have even if a basic understanding of information technology and computer sciences, if a basic understanding is really beneficial. So like if you can kind of maintain your healthcare prowess and then actually tack on the ability to do even simplistic coding, things of that nature, then you can actually be an asset. Because even at my facility, like my facility alone is a 700 bed facility, and I'm part of a network of facilities, about 6 facilities just in Seattle for this specific organization. And for this whole system, there's only one nurse informaticist, just one. And that person is like pulling their hair out of their head because they just can't keep up. But there's nobody else going into it. So there's definitely a void that needs to be filled. So, and then, you kind of create your own opportunities once you have that on your resume and say, hey, listen, I do nursing and I do coding and stuff like that. And you could serve like as a consult, go to different facilities, not necessarily have to stay in one location. You can work remotely. I mean, there's so many possibilities. And that's what I'm looking at going through. So right now, I'm doing vascular access, but I'm going into, because I looked up, nursing informatics, and one of the what they said, to make it easier to get to, because it's very competitive getting the program, because there's not that many programs available. They said like if you have a ICU background, so, or if you're a current ICU nurse, so I'm going back onto the floor. I'm going into ICU. Actually, I'm starting on December 6th, my little training program to go back into the ICU. And so once I have that under my table, then I have my options are endless. So I mean, I know you may be getting burnt out from healthcare, but there's so many different avenues that don't involve direct patient care that you can look into. And then with the actual, we know that blockchain and stuff is going to be integral in the progression of the healthcare industry. So for you to have that background, add on to something that, because now you have a unique a dynamic having those 2 backgrounds as opposed to just having one.
Yeah.
Well,
the thing is, like Trish is saying, man, it's easier to train a nurse to program than it is to get a programmer to go back to school for nursing, man. That's just not going to be the business, man. That's 2 different.
Well, Super Trish, are you a BSN?
Yes, I am.
Okay, you're a BSN. Okay.
Yeah, and with the BSN, my job paid for my BSN. Like, I mean, now mind you, I have to work full time. So like, some people don't want to work full time and go to school. I ain't gonna lie, it was a pain in the ass. But
so you started as an ADN. I'm sorry, not ADN, but you started as an RN and then got your BSN.
And actually, I went in the military. Got my EMT, then went to LVN school in the military. Got out of military, then went to associate's degree nursing school, and then went to BSN school. So I stair-stepped my way up. But because I stair-stepped, I don't have any student loans.
Well, that's what I'm doing right now. But and I don't want to just clog up the panel with this. I was kind of asking about you and Dr. Phoenix. Maybe toward the end, I wanted some career advice because I'm a fairly new nurse, and I'm getting my butt kicked right now. But I think the whole informatics track is. I've been told that if you haven't, there's no need to go get a degree in informatics if you have an IT background, because from what I understand, informatics, they are the liaison between IT and nursing, because most nurses don't understand the tech lingo, and most IT people really, when you speak to them about pharmacology and pharmacokinetics and or therapy or anything like that. They don't really understand. So they're kind of delays. In fact, I know a girl where I work. She's actually doing it, but when she explained her classes and what she's doing, I'm just like, yeah, I'm way past that. Like, that's really they're really taking basic stuff doing
Well,
nursing from that.
because your role is really basic. So essentially, what you're going to be doing is you're going to say, for instance, you're on Epic, right? And then you have like certain form fields that are applicable to your role as far as from a legal standpoint, documentation. So, like for instance, like there is an Epic switchover at our facility, and so now we're missing a lot of key data that needs to input it to that actually shields, the actual staff members from litigation. Because, like, say for instance, if you place like a particular, like a type of IV access, right? You need to not only put the location, the size of the catheter, whether or not it was pressure injectable. You need to put if there was some type of local anesthetic applied, the patient's response to the anesthetic. There's certain form fields that need to be put in there. But if those form fields are not there when you fill out that flow sheet, nurses are not going to actually remember just to put it in as a free text. So that's where you come in as the informaticist and say, hey, we need these particular form fields because I know in order to make my workflow more efficient, if I could just click this box as opposed to having to free text it, not only am I going to remember it, I'm going to actually put only the pertinent information because, sometimes you put too much information, that's a liability as well. So you're not really going to be actually programming. Although I'm sure that like if you had if you're an actual legitimate programmer with healthcare experience, that there's a viable avenue for you there higher up the chain as opposed maybe working for Epic directly as opposed to working for a facility as a liaison. So I mean you can go. I mean depends on how in depth you want to be. I mean there's just so many possibilities.
Oh wow. Yeah. But Mike, you don't think it would be a good idea for me to go after the certifications and just get certified in some of these disciplines, IT disciplines?
You can get certified, but can you do the work? So a lot of people cram for these exams and just to get past the exam, but they can't actually do the work. So you got to actually be able to demonstrate that you can actually perform your duties and roles and responsibilities. Some of these exams are knowledge based, so you only need to just kind of cram for it. But at the same time, I think for what you're trying to do, informatics, what's the other thing that you was trying to get into?
Well, the three ones I'm focusing on is or an Oracle certification because I like database. The second one is AWS or a Azure certification because I hear cloud is I mean those jobs are like hotcakes right now.
Yeah.
And just because I already started Salesforce, those are the three I'm just focusing on right now.
See, in your position, you don't need to get certified. You're a nurse. No, there's no real reason for you to be certified in two different disciplines, right? So, one, you're a nurse, but then to be an Azure person or be an AWS person or to be a Salesforce person, you would have to be. That would require 100% of your focus. That's not your league. You want to get an understanding of the technology so that you can leverage it while you're still being a nurse. So you don't need to be certified. So they have boot camps out here that you can take that are actually pretty beneficial. Either $2,000 to $5,000, man.
But I think Mike, what he said earlier, like, did you say you were trying to get out of nursing? Did you say that earlier?
Well, I'm not trying to say, I hate it. I'm not trying. I hate it right now because right now I'm a grunt in nursing. I'm an LPN. I'm about to get my RN, but I'm getting beat up here on the floor. Like it's. I hate it. I don't like working with women.
Let me just say that so I've been doing this since 2001. As far as like the getting beat up, on the floor, a lot of that is especially as a new nurse, is time management. And that's something that they don't teach in school. They really don't teach a whole lot in school. LPN is pretty focused, but I mean, it's just too short. It's not enough time to really go over all the concepts. But really and truly, it's time management. Once you get that time management aspect down pat, and a lot of that involves knowing exactly what to look for, because you're bombarded with information, especially like in report, they give you all this information. If you're able to laser focus on the pertinent information, and that only comes with experience. You know, I can do that now because I've been doing it so long. I know, like when somebody starts talking about certain things and report, my okay, yeah, okay, let's move on to that. Like, I don't need to know, like, you know, what their daughter said. I don't care about none of that. Let me give me the pertinent information. Let's go get X, Y, and Z, and let's move forward. And so that helps you with time management, so you can get, you know, and then prioritizing. What are your priorities? Okay, my priority right now is just get a basic admission. I'll go back and do the rest of the admission later. Let me go get them started, get them settled. Then I'm gonna go pass my mess. Then I'll go back and do my admission. You know, these are like things like you have to kind of prioritize, but that only comes with experience. And once you get that process down pat, a lot of the stuff that you're complaining about now won't even really be pertinent. It won't even exist anymore.
Well, it's kind of affecting my money right now because I'm one of the, you know, in Texas, a lot of LPNs or LVNs as they call them here don't really work in hospitals, but I was able to get myself into LTACs, and from there, I kind of moved into this whole travel or agency nursing.
Yes,
So
I've
I'm
done
all
that.
over the place. Well,
I've done
yes,
that
I'm
too.
all, that's the only way I was able to find where I can make pretty decent money.
But
as
that's
a
why you're
nurse.
getting beat up. That's why because when you're doing agency nurse, you're constantly moving to different facilities. And then as an agency nurse, because I've done that, I've done agency, and actually I came here to Seattle as a travel nurse. And so when you're doing agency nurse, you're not an actual employee, right? Number one, the staff members that are around you, they resent you because they're looking at you like, oh, well, he's making so much more money, blah, blah, blah. That's what they think, right? And you're not making that much more money, but that's what they think. That's the perception. And so a lot of times what they'll do is, because they have the relationships with the people that work there, they'll give you the worst assignments. They'll give you the patient that has, you know, full-blown AIDS with disseminating tuberculosis, coughing up his lung, misting blood in the air, that type of stuff. And so, you know, you'll be better off with a single. Let me just give you some game real quick. A single facility that has extensive needs that you can just rack up overtime at one facility. And I know it kind of gets monotonous being at the same facility, but economies of scale. You're going to the same place over and over and over again. You have a domicile in proximity to that establishment, like I have now. Like, I live close to where I work. I put all my hours in at one facility. So once I pass 40 hours, I'm in overtime. I'm in overtime every week. So you make a lot more money at one facility than you do spreading at other facilities, because you're never in overtime at any one facility. You see what I'm saying?
Oh no, I think he disappeared.
No, that was it.
No, Galaxy S8 had disappeared. But,
No, I think he just joined back. I think I just saw him. He joined back right now. What up, Zone?
Well, complex.
Audible.
Yo, what up, Zone?
Mike.
And chilling. Yeah, we're gonna close out in 5 minutes anyways, but Galaxy S8 has his hand up again.
I'm sorry. I real quick. I was just telling Triz that it's kind of hard in my situation because as an LVN, there really not a lot of facilities where you can do that at. Maybe when I get my RN, you know.
Well, there's always, believe it or not, there's always nursing home is where I made a lot of money at. Now, I blew a lot of money because I was being stupid at the time, but when I look back, I was able to make a lot of money at a nursing home, and it was really easy money once you actually position yourself like you know, as a unit manager, as a supervisor, where you're not actually doing, you know, direct patient care, you know, to the extent that the other nurses are doing it. Is really easy money if you really think about it. But I don't want to tie up the string, because this is more information technology related.
Exactly.
But you know,
we got a nursing stream on Saturday, so.
Yeah, and then you can just hit me up on the background. Hit me up. Matter of fact, hit me up right after the stream. _ Super Triz on Instagram, and we could chop it up. _
I don't
Super
have an
Triz.
Instagram. I don't have
Instagram. Matter of
Email.
fact, you got a Facebook?
Yeah.
You got, okay. So put your Facebook in the back chat. You know how to type in the back chat?
On his phone.
He's lagging a lot. What happened to him?
I think he might have dropped off.
Okay.
No, he's still on camera.
Can
He
you
got
hear
a bad,
me?
yeah, bad connection. It's kind of barking a little bit.
Oh, Galaxy. Matter of fact, just type your email. Just type your email in the chat, in the
YouTube chat.
the YouTube chat, and then I'll hit you up.
Okay.
Yeah. That actually was a pretty interesting tangent.
I apologize.
No. It actually ties into what we're talking about, because we're talking about the application of distributed ledger technologies and how that would apply. And in this case, this is what we're talking about, right? Healthcare. How do you apply, from a nursing perspective? How would you apply some of these use cases onto a distributed ledger technology?
Real quick, Mike.
I'm sorry, Mike V, but I remember.
Is that Egisa? Is that Egisa at Gmail? Is that you?
Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, that's me. I'm sorry, Mike V, but I remember in past podcasts you saying that certifications are important, that you need certifications, and you always talk about certifications. So why now is it not pertinent in my instance?
Because that's not your main focus, right? If you're a nurse and you're trying to solidify yourself with a with a technology background, you don't need a certification per se. You just need to know the technology enough. No one really cares that you have an Azure certification or that you're AWS certified unless you're actually going to go work on AWS technologies. It's just not. It's not that impressive. Now, if you came back with a data science certification or a certificate and saying, you have an IBM data scientist certificate, that might be different, because then they can leverage that skill set in developing new cloud-based medical applications and so on and so forth, because big data is really what pays right now, not really cloud certifications for nurses. That's it's a perspective that is not necessary. So unless you're trying to get out of nursing 100% and get into IT, that it's not the business, in my opinion. As someone who works in cloud computing and in cybersecurity, it's not the business.
Well, I definitely like you guys' lifestyle. I mean, I think you guys are.
What's our lifestyle? Is it made of latex or something?
No.
He just wants to be at home making $100,000 a year.
Yeah, exactly. You guys are always talking about.
What the hell? You think that's what we do?
No, Mike V. No, because Mike. Look, I saw Sub-Zero put his check. He put his pay stub on a YouTube broadcast one time, and he showed it, and I'm just like, do you know what I can do with 5,000 every 2 weeks? Like Super Treat is buying real estate. Like I can, like you're not gonna get that.
I mean, listen, in nursing, you can bring home that every 2 weeks in nursing, man. That's not anything. But see, okay, so my draw to information technology is the fact that I can work remotely in my country of choice.
Exactly.
And still utilize my English language. Okay, because say for instance, like I was looking at nursing in other areas right now, like in Germany, right? I could have got a job in Germany, but they said they're gonna put me through like a language course, and I have to learn German language. So there's gonna be like a long period of diminished productivity because I can't work the hours I don't work because I'm gonna have to be learning German, and then German economy doesn't pay as much either. For healthcare people because of the socialized healthcare system, right? And so then, like, for instance, I want to go to Brazil, right? I would have to learn the Brazilian language, and so it would be like a commitment to like one particular country. But say I want to just bounce around to different countries here and there, right? If I'm working for a company that's based in the U.S. doing something IT related, where I'm working remotely, it doesn't matter where I'm at. I'm still working for that particular company, or maybe even a collection of companies as an independent contractor in my native language. So there is no commitment to learning any specific language. I can kind of bounce around and just be wherever I want to be, and just, as long as I got an internet connection, I'm good. So I think that's what's appealing about that, IT lifestyle.
Exactly. That's
That
what I mean by
lifestyle.
lifestyle. That's what I mean by the lifestyle. Like,
Yeah, the digital nomadic way of living. Yeah, I mean,
not even that, but you guys talk about Africa. Yes, Africa needs a lot of healthcare infrastructure, but remember I started out as an engineering major, and I really want to kind of circle back to that.
okay.
And if I'm gonna go back, because I'm not, how do I put it? I'm not ADOS, if that makes any sense. But
Hey, fellas.
Oh, whoa. You're not ADOS?
nah, I'm
Nah,
not.
man, you gotta get up off this panel, man.
Man, what? Get him out of
Wait,
here.
wait.
Hey,
Another
fellas.
flag. Wait.
Nah, I just think, man, it's. I mean, I see what's going on in back in my home country, and I just think, man, so much is gonna be around technology. I mean, that's the new frontier. I think that's the great equalizer. And so, I just think being in, it's a fault. It's I guess, and just getting my foot in the door. Yes, healthcare will always be there. Look, man, I'm all about. I think we as black males, we should have at least 1, 2, or 3 professions. Be diversified in our abilities, because you never know. Okay, we might have to make a lateral move here or there. So from where I come from, where I'm coming from to where I am now, I don't, if I always have to fall back on the super triz, I mean, he'll tell you if he ever has to go back to bedside nursing, he can do it and make decent money,
Because the thing is, we're moving into a telemedicine era right now. You would be the perfect candidate to have that IT sort of understanding, the ability to kind of understand code. You don't have to write the code. You can just understand it.
Yeah.
And the ability to actually understand from a nursing perspective how something should actually operate in HIPAA. So you take those sort of skill sets and compound them, and you say, okay, this is where I'm applicable. Walgreens, CVS, all of these companies are going to move into telemedicine at some point.
Hey,
Hey.
engineering. Yeah. Hey, what's going on, engineering cannabis? Go ahead, bro.
Hey, happy Thanksgiving, everybody, man.
Hey, happy
What's up, man? Happy T-Day, bro.
So, in terms of healthcare is going through an evolution, because right now, in terms of information, in terms of technology, healthcare right now it's lagging in terms of going through that basically step. So anybody who's into that, if you're a nurse, you have that insight into the problems that needs to be solved.
Wait, who's this? Who's this speaking?
Engineering cannabis.
Engineering cannabis.
Oh boy, how far now?
I did. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you have that insight. You have that insight into that problems. For instance, one of the biggest problems as a data scientist, one of the biggest problems I've seen in the healthcare, the biggest choking point in the healthcare part is basically the registration.
Okay.
And also disseminating of information to the medical practitioners. So if they take your information, your temperature, basically your vitals, disseminating those information quickly is one of the biggest chokehold in the healthcare and basically in the hospital setting. So right now they're looking for technologies just to solve that problem. And I got that problem just from talking to a nurse. So being a nurse and having that background in IT, it's one of the most beneficial part right there. Because at that point you can identify where the problems are and also have the skill set to solve those problems. And that is where it's needed the most, because there are a lot of problems in terms of IT, in terms of data analysis, in terms of resource rearrangement. So with that background, it's very useful.
And you're spot on. And as I don't know, depending on the next president, at some point, America is going to have to get a handle on the exorbitant cost of healthcare in comparison to other countries, without a significant increase or a significant increase in patient outcomes. And so, from that particular perspective, there's going to be opportunities for you to market yourself as saying, hey, I can save your facility X amount of dollars. Here's how, you know, and you can find ways to streamline, you know, different processes within the healthcare, and that's what people are going to be looking for. Because at the end of the day, it's about money.
In fact, Super Trips, you know what I was thinking about? Because a lot of these LTACs, I think the affordable, it was one of these acts that required all acute care hospitals to have electronic what do you call it, EHRs, like Epics,
electronic health records.
Health records.
Electronic health records, right?
Exactly. But a lot of LTACs are able to get away with it because they're classified as something else. So one of the things I hate, because as at my level of nursing, I get calls to go to a lot of LTACs, and a lot of these LTACs have paper charting, and I hate it. It is the worst. Like, imagine it's 2:00 in the morning, you just finished taking care of all these patients, and now you have to start writing out a narrative. It's ridiculous. I actually went to school with a guy, and he started off in home health, but he ended up creating this EHR for home health agencies. I mean, the guy's a millionaire now. It's ridiculous. Like, probably, and I know Mike V was talking about Amazon doing this, but to figure out some type of universal EHR where everybody is able to,
well, they already have that conceptualized. It's called Care Everywhere, and it's essentially a type of EHR that can be accessed by a multitude of facilities, although it's still relatively in its infancy. I think this is where blockchain comes into, and digital ledger technology comes into play. So because what happens is that you have these particular programs that you have minimal amount of interface in them. So it's basically read-only data, you know, as opposed to you actually being able to edit. So basically, you got to take the data that you see on Care Everywhere, and you got to transcribe it to your particular mainframe. And so that's a very inefficient way of doing anything, as opposed to it being an actual digital ledger or some type of blockchain that you actually access and you modify on your end as the end user. And so that way it's when it's accessed by somebody else, they don't have to transcribe it anymore. They can actually directly access that data and modify it. You see what I'm saying?
In respect to blockchain, especially probably in the healthcare and the AWS cloud system, the goal will be trying to use blockchain as a more protective use in any cloud system, because the blockchain will be a very, very helpful tool in cybersecurity. And it's going to be utilized, especially with cloud technology, even with machine learning and all that. Blockchain technology will be utilized in more of a cybersecurity aspect, and should be used. It's currently being utilized currently. So that, and especially in the healthcare field, trying to protect patients' data, especially when you're trying to move into the cloud system, implementing a blockchain technology, especially cybersecurity, will be a huge advantage too.
They're very bullish on blockchain in healthcare. So I'll be honest with you about that. That the last conference, cloud computing conference I was at for healthcare back in, I think, September or August, they were very bullish on it. So they're not really, they're not really about that life. The thing about healthcare, HIPAA has not kept up with the technology standard, and that's part of the issue. So they're not really jumping out the window to implement blockchain anytime soon. But all these new companies would implement it outside the United States because it's that fast of a technology, right? So and they don't have all of these regulations that they have to abide to. So
most healthcare startups will start looking into applying new technologies, especially with the healthcare. And a lot of startups will probably start looking at blockchain, but not yet. But outside the US, as you stated, they are looking at it. A lot of healthcare startups.
Right, but because how do you protect the blockchain, right?
That's a good question.
Right, so standpoint, right? I have to look at that. How do I countermeasure a DOS attack, a denial of service attack against blockchain infrastructure? Blockchain
Yeah.
is not protected in that way. And if it is protected, how are we doing it? Are we putting intrusion detection agents on there? Are we leveraging next generation firewalls? Are we putting web application firewalls on there? Because it's a database, an ongoing database, a distributed ledger database. There's all sorts of questions that have not been answered as to how we can protect and mitigate against cyber attacks from nation states, especially now with quantum computing that can actually crack the hash on those distributed ledgers.
But they're currently there's some technologies utilizing machine learning and cybersecurity.
Yeah,
where you can use predictive algorithms to basically AI and predictive algorithms to train your system to notify where basically key aspects in terms of cyber attacks and all that.
Well, and then that generates a lot of false positives, and then we spend a lot of time chasing false positives all day long.
True.
Only less than 1% of our incidents may actually be a solvable incident, right? So that becomes time consuming. So, there's a whole lot of maturation that needs to take place. And,
yeah, there is.
That hasn't. We're a couple of years off from that.
Yeah.
So.
A couple of years.
Yeah, we're probably by 2022, you'll probably see a shift in cybersecurity.
Okay.
The adoption of artificial intelligence, but as it stands right now, the artificial intelligence isn't. The artificial intelligence and machine learning isn't as robust as it should be for usage, because you can feed a lot of, because machine learning is fed by data sets, and if you have a lot of false data being pumped into it, then it makes a lot of false assumptions.
Yep, you're right.
If
Definitely
you have false attacks against your infrastructure, and that stuff gets fed into the artificial intelligence, it's going to keep going off that something's happening when in reality it's not. I spend a lot of time chasing, putting fires out that are not really fires, just some smoke burning, but there's nothing there.
Yeah, I've seen that research. I've seen that done too. Yeah, you are definitely right.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you all for joining us, man. If you can hit the like button, please do so. Share the video if possible. Hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust, including those posted on the community tab. If you want IT mentorship and you're trying to get into IT for the first time, we do offer mentorship here. Leave your comments at the end of the live stream, and one of us will get back to you. If you are moving from one IT position to another, and you're trying to, you need some coaching, we do offer that here. If you need your resume looked at and some salary negotiations, we do offer that here as well. If you're in the tri-state area and looking for a contract to hire in terms of information technology, the Golden 11 in the tri-state area does have recs available. Also, if you're trying to get into blockchain, we'll be doing more deep dives like this into blockchain and distributed ledger technology. So next week, we'll be going over smart contracts versus artificial intelligence and what the necessity factors are behind it. Happy holidays to everyone, and shalom.
Peace.
Peace.